Everybody ready? Nathan, you ready? Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I would like to call the Flint Board of Education regular board meeting. Okay. So,
Present.
Assistant Secretary, Treasurer McIntyre,
Present.
Trustee McNeil,
Present.
Vice President King,
Present.
Trustee Rutherford,
Present.
Treasurer Luna,
Present.
and myself, President Clack. I am present. And I would like to start this meeting off with a moment of silence for Michigan State University, if that's okay with everyone. Okay, I will now call upon Secretary Perkins to read the district's mission statement and first statement in standards of practice.
District mission statement. It is the mission of the Flint School District to develop a community of learners who are prepared to live, work, and contribute in an ever-changing society. Flint Board of Education standards of practice. In order to provide outstanding leadership and better serve the Flint community schools, we, the members of the Flint Board of Education, commit to the following standards of practice. Number one, we will be consistent in our dealings with each other, as well as students, staff, and community.
Number two, we will model trustworthiness with each other, with our superintendent, and with our constituents.
Number three, we will focus on a common goal of providing the best education possible for the students in the Flint community.
Number four, we will respect the diverse views that each of us bring to the organization, as well as the view of others that we interact with as we carry out the business of the Board of Education.
Number five, we will be open and authentic with each other, our staff, and community.
Number six, as we work to make decisions.
Number seven, our decisions will be student-centered and based on objective facts.
Okay, I seek a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the January 18th, 2023 regular board meeting.
So move.
Second.
Okay, it has been properly moved and seconded. Are there any corrections? Any corrections? All right, seeing none, the motion to approve the minutes from the January 18th, 2023 regular board meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. As I call your name, say.
Last week, there was a line in front of me, so I was being patient.
No, it's okay.
Good evening, Board. My name is Carrie Downs. I'm honored to serve as the Director of the Flint Community Education Initiative. Our main office is located at 452 South Saginaw Street here in Flint. I have lots of highlights for you today, and most of them are really honoring the collaborative work that we do with the FCS school staff. First, I would just like to talk about, again, the collaborative effort between Flint Schools Administration, school staff, Youth Quest, and the Community Education Initiative. I am learning and Black History-centered programs and so much more. Each school has designed a unique program that focuses on supporting students' core subjects and then also creating great enrichment opportunities for them as well. Additionally, I would like to highlight the partnership we have with Southwestern. We had 16 of our Southwestern scholars attend a field trip to visit Eastern Michigan University. We know the power in making sure that our scholars are aware of the great opportunities they have after they graduate. The field trip experience was for students to be able to learn about the culture of a college campus, programs that are available, and even understanding room and board. Additionally, Home STEM Academy, Middle School Academy students visited University of Michigan Flint last week, where they had a front row seat to see the opportunities right here in our city. I'd also like to highlight some of the Count Day activities that took place in our schools during Count Day earlier this month. At Holmes, students floated into Count Day as they were served floats for every single student who were in attendance, and they also held a raffle for students. Pierce served ice cream at lunch for students and staff to enjoy, and I love it when we do what we can to make sure staff are honored on Count Day as well. Each student in attendance received an additional 50 points for the PBIS store, and then any class with perfect attendance will be having a pizza party. Nethercutt additionally did a pizza party at the end of the day for students who were in attendance, and a raffle will be held for the classes with 100% attendance. Parents of students who are in those classes will also have a chance to receive a gift card from the raffle. And finally, I would like to highlight ALA's, Accelerated Learning Academy, right here in the school that we're in. They provided lunch for students from In-N-Out Tacos, and each class created 350 packets for the homeless. So they included community service with their Count Day activity here at ALA. Huge shout out to Kelly Fields for her leadership here at the school. So many more activities that were held on Count Day. And then also, I'd like to honor Paishan Curtis, one of your Flint Schools teachers, for the great coverage she received in the news, hoping that you saw that article and the gorgeous photos and the great writing pieces from the Freeman students in Paishan's class. Thank you, Board.
Thank you, Ms. Downs. Next, we have Ms. Nancy Burkhardt.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Nancy Burkhardt, and I live in Flint, Michigan. What I'm going to present to you, I emailed to you on Tuesday, February 7th, to all the board members. I am a Flint product graduating from Flint Community Schools, Pierce, Whittier, and Flint Central High School. I have 2 degrees from the University of Michigan, Flint also. My husband and I chose to live in Flint when we married 30 years ago, and our daughters also attended Flint Community Schools. I began teaching for Mott Adult High School in 1990, a subsidiary of Flint Community Schools, and remained there until I was transferred in August 2014 to ALA, which was a successor of Mott Adult High School. When Mott Adult High School disbanded, all schools under the Flint Community Schools umbrella became under the K-12 bargaining unit. Upon this transfer, I was placed on a forced salary that was not on the union scale, along with 14 other staff members. In January 2015, I was again involuntarily transferred to teach in the 10th through 12th grade traditional high school program, not alternative ed, where I remained until June 2018. Since fall of 2018, I have taught at Scott School, right here, both at the middle school level and ALA. With the recent contract, my salary with 33 years is at $49,000. With my number of years in education, my salary should be $75,000. I have both a bachelor's and master's degree from U of M Flint. Furthermore, I am teaching with staff members with less seniority that are earning more, as well as with new teachers who are earning just $7,500 less than me at $41,000. Last school year, the district was looking for an English teacher with a salary range and willing to pay them more than me, up to $50,000. Last fall, 3 new hires were approved and hired at lane 10 and 11, and earning over $60,000. I am at lane 5. They were at 10 and 11. On October 26th, I received this correspondence from the current HR director. In a nutshell, she basically told me that there was nothing that she could do. She said the Board of Education is important. I could talk to you. It's important to note that they're well aware of many of the inconsistencies that exist in the teacher's salary scale due to the several years of freezes, but that's in no way a reflection of your service, engagement, or commitment to the district and Flint community scholars. But she did say thank you for your patience and your understanding. Over the years, I've been asked by my friends and family about moving on to school districts that would pay me more. My calling has always been here with my students. I've been placed here for a reason. Since 2014, I've made several administrations aware of this salary issue, including superintendents and HR directors. In addition, the UTF has been aware of the discrepancy since 2016. Eventually, I would like to retire, and the low salary that the interim assistant superintendent imposed on the transferring staff in 2014 will affect my pension and my Social Security for the rest of my life. My request, I am requesting a salary adjustment in accordance with my years of service and education level. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burkhardt. Next, we have Mr. Robert Sexton. Robert Sexton.
Okay, one of the first things I'd like to bring attention to is the fence at Potter School. And July 27th, I had somebody walk off the basketball court because there's no fence and confronted my 8-year-old granddaughter. When I got out and confronted him, I asked him what he was doing. He said, "Nothing, just playing basketball." When I got in my car, he began stabbing me in the neck, face, head. Anyways, I spent 3 weeks in the hospital. Anyway, I think if the fence was there, it's been down for probably 3 years. Cars drive out onto the parking lot, onto the playground. So, it'd be easy for somebody if they wanted to just drive out through the playground and commit some kind of a horrendous act. So I think there should be some attention brought to that. And then the other thing I think I'd like to see addressed is the epidemic of suspensions of 6 and 9-year-old and 8-year-old kids at Potter School. It's just a tremendous amount of suspensions, and there seems to be no due process, and they don't follow the code book or any of the rules as mandated by the Michigan State Board of Education. They don't complete their files. They don't put it's mandatory that they do the 7 discipline factors, and it should be in their charts. There's none of that. And then I have an issue with a suspension that I'd like to ask at this time for a meeting with the board to discuss that and the failures of Potter School's administration to address this. And if I could, I've got some information I'd like to leave that maybe you could look over. I've contacted Mr. Stewart, no answer. The superintendent, they won't answer. Mrs. Lawrence, she won't answer. Let me see. And several other people, nobody wants to answer my emails, and that's why I'm here today. But if I could, I'd like to leave some information with you in regards to my issues here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sexton. Next is Mr. Bruce Jordan.
Good evening, board members. Bruce Jordan. I represent the United Teachers of Flint, MEA. I just come today to talk a little bit about the strategic plan. What's the overall far-reaching plan that Flint has? Now that we have a new board, seemingly the infighting has at least somewhat come to a minimum. It would be nice to have a global plan for restructuring the district, closing buildings, restoring teachers' salaries from the freezes that took place. And I think all of that can be done hand in hand as we work with and start having conversations with the partners, Mott, and other community organizations to support and revitalize Flint Community Schools. I'm here today to basically say that the teachers want to partner with you. I know we're collaborative with the administration. I know we work lockstep with the focus being with recruiting students, recruiting teachers, and making sure we have a high level of achievement in the classroom. But we want to make sure that you as the board know that we're ready and eager to work with you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Next is Mr. Robert Hall.
Hello, my name is Robert Hall. I'm a father of 4 students at Freeman Elementary. 2 are honor roll students. I'm having an issue with the school and the administration building. I have a kindergartner has been sent home 5 to 6 times this school year. He's ran out of the school on numerous occasions where neighbors have had to catch him instead of school officials. I've addressed this. This child has been diagnosed with ADHD and the other one with ADD. Instead of the schools following the rules of the rule book, they've called me on numerous occasions. I'm a father of 5. You know, my wife passed last year. I volunteered at the school along with my wife for, you know, quite some time until, you know, I had to, you know, step away from that due to the fact my wife had passed. I have documentation. The school was notified back on October of last year of ADHD and ADD for my two boys. November, I had sent in a request for an IEP and a 504. I have gotten those meetings, but these are still in process, way out of violation of what the law states should be in place. They still have not done one-on-one support for this child. I had to call, I've taken my son down to the police department and asked them, hey, what can we do? I've taken him to Hope Network. I have documentation of everything I have done with this school. I have a whole file, this is from this year alone, of write-ups from this school. This is absurd, and this is a violation of rights. They've called the cops on me for recording a public meeting in a public building, which they need to understand that that is my right. I'm not recording students, I'm recording public officials in a public capacity. So these schools need to understand that they can't go call the cops on parents for recording for their kids' rights. My son is being denied an education, and if you think a solution to him running off or a solution to this is sending him home, where is he going to get his education? It takes 21 days to make something a habit. It takes months to break that habit. The school knew about this at the beginning of the year. Here it is, almost the end of the school year. This still is not in place yet. I had to get a case manager for him to go into the school that's now going to start telling the school what to do. I have 4 federal violations right now that I could file on the school that I have not because I don't want to take from them students. I'd rather see the school do what's right by the kids, by the staff, whatnot. They've kicked them out of after-school programming altogether. I have called their funding partners, and their funding partners were not happy. Something needs to be addressed. There's no reason for a kindergartner to be able to get outside of a school. They're talking about, well, for his safety, we're sending him home. Well, no, his safety should be you not allowing him to get out of that school. These school officials need to take responsibility instead of trying to push it off on the parents. I've got progress reports that completely reflect opposite, from one to the next, just with changing classrooms. Sometimes it's the teachers. When I got one kindergarten student coming home with 4 or 5 different assignments and the other coming home with none, that tells me that one of them teachers are not wanting to do their job to educate that child. There's no reason. I mean, my 6th grader don't come home with that much homework. But the school needs to start looking into these rule books and these violations being followed. I've got papers from administration that I filed complaints, never got an answer. They never return your phone calls. This is an issue, and it needs to be addressed.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. All right. Next, we have Mr. Damon Tempe.
Let's see, I don't want too close. Last Thursday, I attended the Flint Community Schools Community Forum. During that forum, the school superintendent acknowledged that 7 of the 11 Flint schools are in the lowest 5% in terms of a recent evaluation. I think it was by the State Department of Education. An additional 3 schools, Flint schools, were in the lowest 25% of these evaluations. That just counted up. That's 10 out of 11 schools in the lowest 25% of these evaluations. My question is, what is the school board planning to do to improve these evaluations? That's pretty bad. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tempe. Next is Ms. Karen Christian.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Karen Christian. I am the president of the United Teachers of Flint. I am also a parent of a student who goes to Flint Southwestern. He's in his senior year. Yay, almost done. Let's talk about safety. First, let me start off by, I think we should have a moment of silence for the students that were lost at Michigan State University. Thank you. Having said that, let's talk about safety. I want us to be a proactive district, not a reactive district. I don't want to be that teacher that has to tell that parent, I'm so sorry, I couldn't protect your child. We have a policy about backpacks in this district. The policy is we don't open up children's backpacks. If we don't know what's in the backpack, and sometimes our metal detectors don't detect everything that's in those backpacks, how do we know that nothing unsafe is coming into our building? We provide our students with everything that they need, from papers to pencils to Chromebooks to books, everything that they need. Now, don't get me wrong, I know that some students like to bring their own stuff, and I so get it. But we need to somehow move to a clear backpack or no backpack at all. We're to the point now where our students, our scholars, our teachers, our staff are the first line of defense when anyone gets into our building. At our elementary level, we have no metal detectors whatsoever. Anything can walk into that building. You all have the privilege, and I'm saying privilege, of having police officers at your meeting that you have 2 times a month that can protect you if something happens. We have nothing. If someone gets into our building, it is up to us to be on the front line to make sure that our students are hidden, that our students are put in a safe place, or our students are able to get out of the building to a safe place. It's not fair that we are put in that situation where we cannot protect our students. We have to be able to do that. Clear backpacks will allow us to look at a backpack and go, something doesn't look right. Can you please open it up and take out what you have there so we can make sure it's safe? It's about safety, and it's about being proactive, not reactive. We do not want to be a district where something catastrophic happens, that we, on the front lines, the ones in the building, have to be the ones to say to a parent, I'm so sorry, I couldn't help your child because someone got into my building and there was nothing there that warned us that something was coming in. I don't want any of us to have to make that choice and that decision, to have that conversation with a parent about something catastrophic. We have to be a proactive district and change our policy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Christian. Okay, Ms. Doris Viverette. Good evening.
To the members of this prestigious board, my name is Doris Viverette, and I'm coming before you representing an organization entitled Genwell United Flint. And August 26th of 2022, we submitted a letter of inquiry to your designated attorney firm expressing our desire to buy Dort School. We were able to do a tour of the building. Pete, I can't remember his last name, but anyway, he took us through the school, so we saw the school, we submitted the letter of inquiry, and we have, as of yet, heard the disposition of this body in regards to that school. I also serve as the Secretary Event Coordinator of Ballinger Square Community Association, and in our area, we have Longfellow School, and we also have adjacent to it, Milbourne Park. In the past, we have been able to do cleanups during the summer to clean up the back of Longfellow School. However, last year, because we really don't have the volunteer staff that we used to have. We had to go to actually paying our staff, and we were able to do that last year, but we had to maintain the 60 properties that Clean and Green gave us, as well as the rest of the property that had not been maintained. So we did that. So we were not able to clean up Longfellow School last year as a cleanup. Please go by there and look at the blight that's behind that school right now, today. Also, the park, Milbourne Park, sits there. We had done cleanups previously to try to keep that up. And the parking base back there is horrible. There's no lighting back there. And so you will find that it becomes trafficking for those who drag race and all of those other unsundry things. And so I'm asking this board, would you please allow the association to take care of that property at Milbourne Park? We're willing to do that if our children can use the facilities of the park. And it seems like we could do some type of partnership so that our children could use that park. And then if you worked with us, we could together, because we want to get rid of the blight, and I'm sure you do too. So I invite you to take a look at that. And as soon as you can, please let me know about the letter of inquiry for Dorrit School. And I did bring some brochures for you of Genwell United. It's based in Atlanta, Georgia, but it has started an organization here in the city of Flint. And so I have these brochures for you to please. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Viverette. Is there anyone that would like to address the board that didn't get a chance? Is that Ms. Bates? I'm sorry, I thought I stopped.
Good evening, members of the board. I just returned back to Flint from visiting my daughter, and a friend told me to go and look at you all's meeting last week, so I did. I was a little disappointed. I felt like the ladies on this side, when it came down to them asking you questions, you disregarded what they were trying to say. You were disrespectful to them. You wouldn't let them say what it is they wanted to say. And I see it's a few more people on this side today than there was that I saw on the YouTube. But what I wanted to say, I felt like some of the things that they were saying were valid, but you would cut them off at every point you had a chance. And to me, it just felt disrespectful, because you are all members and you should listen to any complaint there is. So, I can't remember you ladies' names, but to me, it was disrespectful. And I think you all, I don't know what agenda you had, but it seemed like it was this side against this side. So I think you really probably need to sit down and talk to these ladies and find out what it was they were trying to say, instead of interrupting them and telling them that they were out of order when they had a question to ask. If you ask a question, you should be able to get an answer. And if you can't think of the answer at that time, you give yourself enough time, say, maybe we'll bring this up at the next meeting, but just don't disregard another person's feelings. Because I didn't see them disregarding any of yours. They were just told basically to be quiet, you're interrupting. I don't know if you ladies really realized that, because you got up, I seen you walked out. But as a person looking on the outside, I saw the disrespect. And it shouldn't have happened between members that's sitting on the board together. You're supposed to be able to sit down and talk about anything. So you just need to show more respect to one another. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That's not Ms. Viverette. Thank you. Okay. I forgot her name. What did she say her name?
What was her name?
Ma'am, you didn't state your name. You didn't state your name.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Sonia, here's my paper.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, please.
Stephen, would you state her name, please?
Sonia Hart.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hart. Okay, I will now call on Superintendent Jones for his communique.
Greetings to our public and to our board. Superintendent Kevin Jones, and we'll be giving you a communique today. But before I do that, I want to thank Mr. Mason Kostick for being here today, who is our student representative. This is the first time I've seen a student representative being a part of a board meeting, so just like to give you a hand for being here today. Flint teachers and staff continue to go above and beyond on behalf of our scholars and families with the academic and wraparound support that they need to succeed and grow. Our work continues as we enter the final stretch of the school year. And I would like to commend our scholars for staying focused, our school families for their unwavering support, and our teachers and staff for ensuring we are providing a safe and thriving school community. Flint Community Schools is in a transformational period, and together we are building the groundwork for what we believe will be a new era in Flint Community Schools and the greater Flint area. We want to extend our gratitude to the Flint Board of Education, a key advocate for our shared mission to provide a safe space for children to learn, grow, and play. Last month was Board Appreciation Month, during which more than 540 school districts across Michigan celebrated school board members. It's simple. Flint Community Schools relies on its board to best serve scholars, families, teachers, and staff. It is a privilege and an honor to work with our board members who selflessly sacrifice their time and energy to ensure we can continue making a positive impact in the lives of scholars and staff and the education and the future of our kids. In order to make the transformational changes across the district to best serve our scholars, the entire school community is involved in this conversation. We utilize ESSER funds at all sites for the new and transformational ideas that is coming forward. We had just recently had an ESSER conversation with our community, as one of our community members stated, and we discussed renovations, we discussed ESSER funding, and we also had the opportunity to have Dr. Pearson here from MDE to discuss our partnership. I want to remind our public that our next community forum is on Thursday, March 23rd at 4 p.m. at Accelerated Learning Academy right here in this room. We want to know and hear your feedback. Alongside our board, we hope to address the wants and the needs of our school community and neighbors. At our last board meeting, we were able to approve 2 items that will be key to the future of Flint Community Schools. One of those items is the conversations we're having with our community partners, and also the conversation of competitive bidding on demolition for Washington School. We are only just getting started, but this is a step in the right direction as we explore options for new schools and demolish some properties or the property that is up for competitive bidding. And as we re-energize Flint Community Schools, we know we need your support. February is Black History Month, and throughout the district, scholars and teachers are celebrating and recognizing the countless number of Black African American people who have paved the way and made significant strides for people of color. With exciting activities planned, with our scholars, and in the classrooms, we look forward to all that our scholars will learn. That said, we are committed to telling these stories and celebrating Black History year-round. There are some exciting things ahead, and we are eager to expand this theme and amplify these voices beyond February. Last week was the one-year anniversary of the unveiling of our hydration stations. We are continuing to move forward. We are continuing to build upon the promise of safety for our scholars. I want to thank all the staff who worked hard to ensure, as we endured the water main break that is now fixed in our community, that we did all we could for our scholars to ensure their safety. So I would like to take my hat off to our principals, who were the leaders in charge, making sure that the staff had what they needed in all 11 of our buildings. So thank you very much. Also, we would like to thank our Director of Operations for working over the weekend to ensure buildings had what they need. Finally, the year ahead will be bright and transformative for Flint Community Schools. We know our school community is ready, eager, and supportive of this work, and we will do our best not to let you down. We remain dedicated to our scholars, families, teachers, and staff as we continue to enhance our learning environments. As always, I appreciate our entire school community for its commitment to Flint Community School. Thank you, Board, and our goal is always our success. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. At this time, we will have a presentation from Troon Law regarding the vacant properties. Please come to the stage.
Good evening. I'm Gordon Van Weren from the Troon Law Firm, and with me is Mackenzie Flint tonight. She is distributing a letter from our firm as well as a spreadsheet with regards to the properties that we have received bids for. And if I may continue, it's nice to see some new faces. We've been here a few months ago talking about the sale of real property. The reason for the letter tonight was to briefly describe the law in Michigan in terms of the sale of real estate. I'm very happy to report that Flint Community Schools has no debt on any of its existing buildings and property that it's looking to possibly sell or transfer. So because there's no current bonded debt on any of your properties that you're considering, it gives you great flexibility to sell or transfer or lease the properties in question. In the letter, we outlined Michigan law, very general powers, giving broad discretion to this board to deal with the disposition of its real estate. There's only two requirements under Michigan law in terms of the transfer of real estate. One is that the district get fair value when it transfers real estate. That does not mean fair market value, but the board has a discretion to determine what is fair for the sale or transfer of property. The second thing is that there's a restriction under law that prevents a school district in Michigan from putting a deed restriction that would prevent the property from being used for a lawful education purpose. So we can insert other restrictions and use requirements for property, but we cannot put language that would prevent the property from being used for another education purpose. So throughout our journey here, we've worked with the district and solicited bids, like I say, for various properties. Attached to our letter is a spreadsheet of all of the properties that the district own, occupied or unoccupied. There are many, as you can see, many properties owned by the school district. Some of them are vacant lots. Some are buildings that are currently vacant. Some are occupied properties. When we started this process last year, we were instructed by the board to assist in soliciting bids for only certain of the properties. That was done. What we distributed to you is a summary of the bids that were received. And I would, if the board allows us, we would like to have Mackenzie simply summarize certain of those bids, or we can talk individually, whatever the pleasure of the board is.
Any board members have any questions? Treasurer Luna?
Hey, thanks for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. I have a couple questions. When you and the previous iteration of the board went through this process initially, was there discussion about the criteria as to how to screen potential buyers and leasers for the properties?
Yeah, when we originally had met with the board and did a follow-up meeting, the thought was when the bids came in, then there would be interviews with the individual offerers to see what the proposed use of the property was, and if they propose to demolish a building, to renovate it. Critically important is source of funds. Do these potential buyers have the ability to finance renovations that would be required? And so our mission, or our direction that we were given by the previous board, was that these properties are owned by the public, and the focus was to put the properties back into community use. And under Michigan law, that's certainly permissible. The Board of Education is not legally required to take the highest bid on a property, but for the board to determine what's in the best interest of the district. And our direction was to look at the community proposed use of the various properties. So that's critical in terms of any evaluation, not simply how much is being offered for the property, but what's the proposed future use, and does the group or other entity have the ability to accomplish those goals?
Add one more question. So as you know, Flint's a very unique community between the water crisis, then deindustrialization. Have you worked with any other similar or like districts? And if so, what are some of the best practices they employed when it came to doing what we're doing here now?
Probably the best example or examples, we've worked with Lansing School District and Grand Rapids Public Schools, large urban districts, and over the years, the various properties that have become available, vacant buildings, the question, like this board asked, what is the proposed use of the property? And there's a vetting process. For example, in the city of Lansing, one of the properties was bought by Volunteers of America, set up a food bank, set up free clothing, and there's a homeless shelter in one wing of the building. Some of the buildings were sold to local entrepreneurs. For example, in Michigan State University, there's what's called the FRIB program, which is basically an atomic smashing, very high-tech type project that's been going on. A group of entrepreneurs bought a school building, and they're now consulting and providing various materials and equipment to the FRIB. So, and there are several other entrepreneurs that have bought properties and been able to turn them into producing jobs for local residents. So, yeah, this is not a one-off. We've done this before, and we're happy to assist the board in vetting, any offers that you have. And again, the direction we were given is that the focus was not going to be simply on how much money can be generated by a particular property, but what would the public and community use? The direction we were given was that the community paid for these buildings and property. These buildings and property should go back for community use.
Thank you.
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
Out of the properties that I'm looking at, that have been bidded on, did you find any in the scope of what you said, as far as community-based projects after they are sold, or, you know?
Yeah, certain of the, Mackenzie, maybe you'd be, can address this better, but part of the process of evaluating a bid is interviewing the bidders to see what their proposed use is, and then coming back to the board with a summary that here the various bidders for a particular property, here's what they're proposing to do, and our recommendations for what types of restrictions should be placed on the property to ensure that may happen. And Mackenzie, I don't know if you want to add in terms of certain, for example, on certain of the properties, what the bidders propose use. Yes.
Yeah, so they were, with all the bids, they did submit various proposals, which we've provided to the board, and we can definitely send you again. They all were very community-oriented. A lot of them were locals or had come from Flint in some way, and a lot of the options were things like doing vocational schools. There were things like community centers. One was a local daycare center that was looking to expand, which I believe was in Dort. So yes, or a few were for affordable housing, so all very community-oriented.
Mel?
I have a question. Did I hear you mention financial sustainability? Was it like a period, maybe 5 to 8 years of sustainability, or if not, it could revert back to the district? So I did hear that.
Yes, and we've done that in other situations where you need to give a community organization a period of time, a fair period of time, because oftentimes you think you can do something in a year or 2 or 3, but with delays and things like that, it takes longer, but there needs to be an end period. You know, at the end of a period of time, is the building being utilized, you know, for the intended purposes?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was in there?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any more questions?
Mr. President.
Vice President King?
Just clarification. So did you say, I'm sorry, your name is Mackenzie, right?
Yes.
Did you say you had like a presentation or some things you wanted to go over?
So we can definitely answer any questions you may have about the bids. We did receive those bids back in August. We haven't accepted any, but we haven't rejected any either. So we are still holding those proposals as well as the cashier's checks that they were required to submit. So if you would like those, I'm happy to submit them to you. Otherwise, yes, in the attachment that we included in the packet we just sent around, we do have all of the bids that we received back in August. As you can see, there were the most for Dort Elementary. We received 4 bids for them. Stewart and King were the most popular schools that received multiple bids. The highest one was $250,000, and that was for Zimmerman with Liberty Way Holdings. And then they ranged all over the place. The board didn't set a minimum bid amount for any of the schools. So going forward, that may be an option that you might want to do. But so they do range from $100 all the way to $250,000.
Excuse me. The one for $250,000, what type of community based program did they have?
I can look that up. I brought the proposals along with me.
Okay.
And oftentimes, what we do in a situation like this is we work with a board committee that summarizes everything and makes a recommendation to the full board, because we understand the full board, or an agenda you have, a long agenda, and oftentimes it assists the board to have a committee review, summarize and make recommendations to the full board. If that's something that the board would like to entertain, we found that to be very successful in, you know, past projects.
I do have one question.
Yeah.
Are these all of the bids?
Yes, all of the bids bids received to date. Since then, we have gotten calls from other people who are interested, but it was after the bidding window had closed. So we haven't received any official bids since
When did that window close? You said in August?
I believe August 28th or 31st.
Because I do see for one of the, I remember I spoke to you before the meeting, there's one person, one organization that I do know of that has put in the bid that I do not see on this list.
Okay.
So I'll follow up with you afterwards.
We can follow up, and also because the Board of Education isn't legally required to even solicit bids, we can reopen the bidding if the board feels that that's in the best interest. If there are other groups out there that didn't have the chance, we can certainly reopen, and this wasn't intended to be a drop-dead date and that we were moving forward. So given the period of time, if the board would like to reopen and discuss individual bids, we can certainly do that.
Okay.
Mike, last question.
Trustee Williford?
Have you guys communicated with them to let them know that we're still in the process, we still have your information, and, just so that they'll know that you still have their information and they're still in the race, if you will? Have you done that, or is it?
I'm going to let you handle it.
Yes, so we came to the board, I believe it was in September, mid-September, to come discuss the bids, and several of the bidders were in the audience. So we did speak to them after that, and then shortly after that window, several did call to ask if any decision had been made. So we had said that it had been tabled for the moment, and so we've been in communication with several of
So
them.
has a letter went out to them?
No, it's
Okay.
mostly been via email and phone calls.
So is it possible that a letter can go out so they can have communication instead of a verbal? Because some people may forget, and I just think it's best practices to have paperwork.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
so that way you all can show that you reached out to them to keep them informed. I think it's nothing like being informed, especially if the decision is made to open it.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
okay.
And as I said, they did have to submit cashier's checks for $100 when they submitted their bids, so we're still holding those as well. So if any are rejected, we'll also send those back to them.
They'll get their money back. Okay, very
Kind
good.
of telling
Thank
them
you.
they're still in the race.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Got a question? Any more questions?
Add two more.
Okay, Treasurer Luna.
So I can't really speak to every property and its condition, whether, when it comes to deterioration and, how much it would cost to bring it to code for use, whether it be residential, office, mixed use, what have you. But in the bidding process, was there any requirement that it said how you plan to bring the building for human use? Because, some of these buildings are far beyond a couple hundred or even a couple $1,000s. They could take multi-million dollars of investment, could be from state, federal, local, private dollars. But my concern is we release these buildings to individuals or organizations who mean well, but the problem still persists, and it's the blighted structure in the community. That makes sense? I'm sorry. That was a long-winded kind of question.
No, it does make sense because even though the district may transfer property, the superintendent may still get calls and say, what's going on with Dort Elementary? Because they've been school buildings for so many years, even if you sell or transfer property, they're still considered to be school properties. So part of the due diligence in getting the bids in is to vet that specific issue. What is your source of funds? Do you have funds on hand to do renovations? What are those, proposed renovations? In terms of renovating an existing school building, it can be very expensive. The school buildings generally have a lot of square footage, but to renovate that square footage can be very expensive. And when you're redoing, if you have electrical and plumbing and mechanical systems that are not up to code, to go into a building in rehab can be very expensive. So like I say, that's critical as part of the due diligence when we vet the potential bidders to come back to the board.
My last question. We have these 20 vacant properties, and many of them are blighted, and require a lot of work to bring them to use, productive use. And I'm thinking about the future with those properties, but the current existing properties we have. Let's say, for example, the admin building on Crapo and Kersley. If we were going to close that building before we close an actual school full of children, would it make sense when we made that decision to put an RFP out for its use? Because in my head, I'm thinking, we close these schools, but there's no proactive measure once the decision is made to close them, and then a year later, 5 years later, they become less and less valuable, where it requires more work to make them productive. And before you know it, you have a Washington or you have a Johnson, and then here we are, with that property.
Certainly, in a perfect world, you would, if you were anticipating closing a building, you would then go out with an RFP and attempt to sell the building while it's still being used. And it's, by analogy, if you have a home that someone's living in and you can sell that home while it's being occupied, there's more value than if the house, is the individual moves out, it's closed. Buildings are more viable and valuable if the use is continued. Once you close a building, it's more challenging to reopen it because things happen with buildings, especially if they don't have heat. The physical structure tends to deteriorate quickly or more quickly if you don't have heat and other utilities on in a building.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions?
Did you get any,
Point of order. I didn't recognize you yet.
I had my hand up.
I still got to recognize you. Secretary Perkins.
Did you get any proposals for leases at all?
Kenzie, did we?
We did not. We offered in the notice of conditions, which is like the RFP that was posted on the district's website, that we were accepting both leases and sales, but all of them were for the sale of property.
Okay, thank
And
you.
including the buildings on the property, to clarify as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
And I will just add that oftentimes, or most of the time, that if someone's going to take possession of the building, they're going to want to own it. If they're going to put a substantial amount of money into a building, they're going to want to own it. They're not going to want to lease it unless you do a very long-term lease. But generally, a buyer is going to, or an offer is going to want to take title to the building and not lease it.
Trustee Rutherford.
This might be, I need help. Okay, a lot of the properties have a lot of acreage behind it. Is all that included? For example, let's say, I don't know are you familiar with the properties? Was it McKinley? That it's a lot of, is all that included? So when they purchase the building, they get the property also, or is that separate?
That was part of what the vetting process is for, because oftentimes when you acquire a building and you've got excess acreage, there's no need to transfer the property that's not required for whatever the use of the building will be. So it's important to split off that property. Now, that requires the city of Flint to approve any land division. If we were to take a building and we have excess property and we want to split that property off for a separate parcel, then we would have to do a land division and get the city of Flint to approve it, which generally is not an issue if you have access to the property and it's not irregular shaped. Land divisions can be granted.
Okay, so was that part of what you all were instructed to focus on, or is this something new that I'm saying?
Originally, it was just for the building and property, but we wanted to clarify once the bids came in, and that's what we're looking for direction from the board. Are there certain properties where we should be looking only for the acreage necessary for the proposed use of the property?
Okay.
Because it's an excellent question, because you don't want to give up excess land as part of a building that you don't have to, because vacant land generally has value.
I think we need to see that. I think that, I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I think that's very important.
Trustee McIntyre.
Yeah, to Trustee Relaford's point, it is very important, and I distinctly remember having that conversation. I think we might have to go back to the meeting minutes because we were very clear as a board that we were looking mostly at long-term leasing and that we did not want to bundle the buildings with the acreage at all. I mean, I think that was pretty clear. So it wasn't kind of like, oh, it's well, let's wait till later. So if there's any misunderstanding, I mean, I think this is something that the current board should definitely be discussing and, come to an agreement on because, I mean, I've been very clear about our public assets remaining public and not giving away property to the lowest bidder like we've been doing with the financial emergency manager situation and many communities and school districts have done throughout Michigan. We need to retain our generational wealth, and there has been a lot of talk about focusing on the long-term leasing, and it keeps disappearing from the conversations. It keeps dropping out, and I'm wondering why. So maybe we need to revisit those meeting minutes to see what the previous board did, come to an agreement or vote on and what it did not vote on, but that's my recollection of it. So my recollection also is that there was talk about the reason why this process has spun out for a lengthier period than any of us would have liked is because of the election and because many people in the community did not feel that it would be fair to have such serious, grave, long-lasting decisions being made by board members who were not elected to their positions but were appointed, and having a new board potentially being on board, that they considered it like a lame duck kind of situation. So we were trying to be respectful of the community and the community's interests and our democratic process and participation. So I mean, I understand the frustration, but the system, the way that it's established with the way that the board is created and voted on in our election process, it is kind of cumbersome and tedious. So just to put that out there, we want to do the best we can as expediently as possible, but sometimes the gears of ethics and what is right move slowly. So thank you for everybody for your patience. We're doing the best we can for our community and for keeping our schools public and part of Flint.
No, in response, I do recall extensive discussion about long-term leasing. The bidders were informed about, that they could solicit bids for long-term leasing and or purchase. The market is such, like I said, it's much more challenging to convince a potential user to lease a building than to buy it. It's just, again, an analogy like a house. Oftentimes people, they want to buy a house, they don't want to rent it. If they're going to put a substantial amount of money into an asset, they want to own it.
And just to follow up, while I appreciate that analogy, and I'm not arguing with you or criticizing your analogy, but I would like to point out to fellow board members and to the public that, with all due respect, we are not a business. We are tasked with a civic duty and responsibility to do a community service. It's not about the bottom line. It's not about strictly dollars and cents. We have been tasked legally with educating all of our population, whether or not they're they're accepted or rejected by private schools or public charter schools. We are obligated to teach our citizens, our students, our even non-citizens, right? So I don't want to belabor the point, but it's not about, oh, let's look at the market and the interest rates and this and that. But we have to look at our long-term, again, our generational wealth. It's not just about the immediate, business quarter, the first, second, and third quarter, and what's going to be our, bottom line. It's about generations. It's about the transfer of community and culture and having something that we can give to our children and our grandchildren that's long-lasting and valuable and meaningful. So,
Vice President King, and then Trustee McNeil.
Okay, I don't want to belabor like the discussion, but I just got a couple of things I want to ask. Okay, first, on all these vacant properties and the buildings that we own, do we pay insurance and taxes on these, right? Right, CFO? Do we pay insurance and taxes on the vacant properties and the buildings? Okay. All right, just want to make sure. And so, True Law Firm, what do you need from us? Like, what is your ask from us to give clarity to what do you need? That's what I want to know.
Thank you. What we would like is some direction in terms of the bids that have been received. Like I say, if you'd like us to work with a committee or with Cavallino or whomever, we would like to move this forward.
Okay.
But like the comments we've heard tonight, we need to do it with a mission, and that is to protect the community use. And it's not like the comment that was made by Treasurer McIntyre. It's not about the bottom line. It's about kids. It's about the community. That's been our focus. We will continue that focus, but we would like some direction on the various properties. And again, we can work with a committee of the board or with the administration, but we'd like to come back with something that we can, move forward with, even if it's one property. I think it's critical that we at least, we move forward with one property, call it a test case, or call it what you want, but at least you can see how the process works and what we do to put it together.
Okay, so make sure I'm understanding you right. You want us to either decide on forming a committee, and how do we communicate with you all, right?
If that's the board, if the board would like us to do that, if not, we're happy to focus on certain of the properties and move them forward. What I don't recommend is that if a committee would cause delay in this process, then we can work with the administration. We just need direction from the board. If there are certain properties you'd like us to focus on, we'll move ahead right away.
Okay, so you want direction on open, basically where we're going to sell the building. So you want us to start moving on that, right?
Yeah, we'd like to know in terms of what particular properties.
So you're at a standstill right now.
Right,
You're waiting on us to say what building should we offload or not, basically, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then also from my other point is, so with the land separation, not land separation, but to the point of Trustee Rutherford's point, do we have to clarify with the bidders? Are they bidding for the whole property, or how are we doing that process of clarifying what we're actually want to sell off, or, what is the clarification process for them?
Yeah, where we have a bid, we're going to go back to the bidder and look at, is it viable to split off any excess property, or is the building situated on the property where it's not, it doesn't make sense, where the proposed use of the property is going to take all the property. So, or are there opportunities, and sometimes it's complicated because you may have a building on a street in front of a property and you have excess property in back. We need to figure out, from a legal standpoint, is it possible to split that property? And we can do that. We just need direction on moving forward with, for example, Dort or Zimmerman. If we have 2 or 3 properties, we'll move ahead. I can tell you that in dealing with Kevlin, he's been very responsive. I'll send him an email, and 10 minutes later, he responds. So the administration has been very responsive when we've asked questions, not just of property matters, but some other things we're dealing with the district. It's very refreshing to have a prompt response, and we thank Kevlin and his staff for doing that.
Okay. I would simply ask, okay, how can we move this process forward as a board discussion? I mean, so we could have a discussion. I mean, we got the acts, but we should start moving the process. So I would just, ask the board, what should we start doing now? Give Trustee McNeil the floor, please.
Were you done?
Yes, I'm finished.
Okay. Trustee McNeil. Trustee McNeil.
Thank you very much. President Clark, to Mr. Jones, back in September, do you think, because we had started this process, that we should pick back up that workshop? You was doing a really great job. When I was president, we had started talking about moving forth. You had a lot of information. So don't you think at this point, we need to pick that workshop back up and continue that conversation? And he was giving us good guidance on what we should do with that property and how it should work on some of those buildings.
So I will answer that by saying that and I think you're talking about the workshop where we talked about the 13 vacant properties.
Yeah,
we
had
gave you
put
those.
the bids out, and then you had came up with another great plan about McKinsley and all of that, but we had to go back to the workshop. And this is what my recommendation would be, that as a board, we return back to that workshop and have these conversations, but yet reach out to those the people that had put their bids in, but during that time, maybe send out a letter like Trustee Melody has said, send out a letter and advise them what we're gonna do, and then return back to a workshop. Or you would just want to expound on that?
I would just say that based on what we're hearing and the urgency, I don't know that we'll, going back into the workshops I don't know how long that's going to take. I don't know how many workshops that would take for the board to make that decision. I do think that based on what Mr. Van Weeren is saying, that some movement needs to happen, whether it's a small movement of choosing a couple properties or whether it's a movement of the 13 that we presented. What was presented to us was, the board wanted to know what properties do we feel we need to hang on to, and what properties do you think we can bid off and either sell or repurpose. The first conversation was what we can sell, and then it became in that meeting about repurposing or thinking about stewardship of the property. So that's what we were doing, and I think we need to do something. If you want to go back, that's up to the board. I would just end by saying that's up to the board, but I think we need to move on something. We do have these people's money. We've been holding their money for a while. I think we need to make some type of move in this area of properties, and it goes along with the conversation of the work we have to do with right sizing and other things. So I think we need to make some sort of move. But I do think that what Board Member Relaford stated is important, and I don't think we've ever done that with these properties. When you think about a McKinley, all that other property, we didn't think about saying, hey, we're going to keep the tree area. We didn't think about that. That might be a good compromise for where the board wants to go with keeping land. So we didn't do that with these properties, correct? Correct. Okay. All right.
Treasurer Luna.
Yeah, I'll be quick. Just 2 points.
Hold on. Point of order. Are you finished?
Oh, I was just going to add to what Mr. Jones said. We did have that discussion separate, like we know McKinsey had, 20-some acre, and we know that Northwestern has a lot of land behind it. And we did start saying that not to give all that land with the building. I think this person wanted McKenzie for a few $1,000s, and he wanted the land as well.
Right, but
And
we,
that-
but only thing I'm saying, Dr. Joyce, is that we did not bid them out
yeah,
that
right,
way.
right,
That's what
yeah,
I'm saying.
yeah.
I'm
Okay,
only
yeah,
saying
you're
we did not.
100% right, yes.
Okay, we didn't bid them out that way. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, Treasurer Luna?
I want to be quick. I know we have a full agenda tonight, so 2 points, 2.5 actually. So what I'm hearing and reading is there was a bid process out. And when I think of bid, I think of, okay, how much do you want to buy the property for? 1,000, million, 100 million, $1. What I'm not hearing was there an RFP process or a request for proposal? How are you going to bring this property back into productive community use? I wasn't sure if that was done or not, but that's what I'm hearing. Number two, when I think of benefit of community, not community use, you know, it's semantics. There's a lot of things to me that I think could be benefit of community use. For example, let's say this cool property is made an employment hub. Number one, that provides jobs and a tax base for our districts, provides jobs for residents, and it makes the property not a blight and not a danger to that neighborhood, raises the property values, you get the idea. Or it could be a community center, it could be a green space, it could be a space for a future school. So I don't think we should limit the innovation and ideas to return this back into community use. I even use the word reimagine because let's face it, there's 180,000 residents in the city of Flint roughly in 1970, and there was about 70,000 GM jobs. There's probably about 80,000 residents now and about 7,000 GM jobs. I think we have to reimagine the use of this, whether it be a school, green space, employment center, but I think it's incumbent upon us to give those guidelines to the administration and to the law firm because I think the board could move a little slower than what they could, but I think as a governance board, setting the guidelines for these folks to do that would be both protecting the public and what they think is best, but also allowing the process to move fast. We don't encumber and let the board guide the way of progress for the community. And that's it.
Okay, Trustee McIntyre, then.
So I would just like to reiterate that I'm concerned about the leasing option falling out of the discussion and to have the rhetoric, so to speak, to keep including the words offloading and sell off our property. So I would like to really redirect it to the stewardship of our community assets. And I would like to request formally that any conflict of interest or perceived conflict of interest by anybody who's involved in this negotiation process or offering up the land or, you know, figuring out the land, again, whether it's a conflict of interest or even a perceived conflict of interest, that it be stated who people are working for, who campaign contributions have come from, because I'm really concerned about our community and
Point of
about
information.
our
Point of
public.
information. Did you say campaign contributions?
Yes,
What would that have to do with this?
because we have a duty to disclose conflicts of interest or perceived conflicts of interest. So I'm not suggesting or saying that anybody has one. I just would like to be very mindful that it's out there and that people state whether there is an actual or a perceived conflict of interest when it comes to the stewardship of our property, so to speak, because I don't understand where this sense of urgency comes from. I mean, where was the sense of urgency when Central High School was closed and the building was left unlocked with the doors open with all of the assets left inside? Where was the urgency with that? There's just an odd, to me, sense of urgency. There's so many things that are urgent in our community. And so again, I would like to formally request, not because of any particular reason or individual or entity, but for the record, that any conflict of interest or perceived conflict of interest when it comes to selling, renting, leasing, urging the encouragement of offloading properties, selling properties, that it be disclosed and be talked about openly and freely, because I'm very concerned, not just as a board member, but as a community member.
My recommendation at this point would be that we draft a summary of questions and really the vetting procedure for all of the bidders who have submitted bids. Some of the bidders did submit what I would consider proposals in terms of proposed use and source of funds and things like that. But I think to level the playing field and make sure we have all the information we have, that we will come up with a summary, and if it's acceptable, then we will go back to the bidders, ask them to clarify, all of the questions we're asking, and in terms of a conflict of interest, we can ask something, we'll come up with some language. Obviously, under Michigan law, any Board of Education member, administrator, or employee of the school district would have a legal obligation to disclose. That legal obligation is not on a bidder per se, but we can ask that. And that'll be part of our summary that we provide to the administration to review with the board, so we can really get to the bottom of.
In point of information, I am including board members and, anyone potentially on committees or, making recommendations or providing advice and things like that. So not just bidders, so yes.
They have that legal obligation, and I can certainly circulate a copy of the statute so people understand what the law in Michigan is about conflicts.
Okay, Trustee Rutherford.
I'll allow
Okay,
Vice
we'll
President
move on
King.
to Vice President King.
Okay. I want to make sure I'm clear to our community members. I am looking at how can we sustain Flint Community Schools when I'm gone. All these properties, we were put here, when I say we, as the recent election, 5 new board members was put here to make the tough decisions we have to close things, we have to sell things, because we cannot sustain the way we're going. We just can't. So I want the community to know what I'm saying, that there's no urgency for me, but to put the scholars first. How you put the scholars first is making sure this Flint Community School District sustains itself. And one of the ways that we can do that is not paying insurance, by selling buildings, not paying the taxes. That is all costs that we're incurring that could go to student achievement in different ways, whether it's renovated buildings, whether it's new buildings, whether it's new classroom furniture. It could go towards so many things for student achievement. So I want the community to know that Teray King Jr. does not have no outside interest, but my interest is for the scholars at Flint Community School District. I am looking to see Flint Community School District thrive when I'm gone. That is my purpose here, and that's what I was elected to do. So that's what I will do. Community, I appreciate you, but I just want you to understand that I don't know where that came from. I'm here for the students. That's it.
Okay. I would also like to add, I would like to second that. I have no idea, but is there anyone else that would like to address Truman Law Firm before? Trustee Rutherford.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, you probably want to ask them if they want their money back, because I don't think we're ready to move that fast. Me personally, I just need to understand what's going on, and from my understanding, there are still items inside the buildings. So, and then, what's actually, based on this conversation tonight, it seems like some communication needs to happen, because there's no way we can sell a building with so much confusion, if you will. And with this new board, it's a whole new perspective. Some of the things we may agree with and some of the things we may not agree with. And I think the best thing for us to do is look at where we are and proceed that way. Because for me, leasing the building is like maintaining the building. Okay, so if we're into just moving forward, but we want to move forward the right way. Okay, I appreciate everything you guys have done thus far. I think you've done an outstanding job, but I think more clarification is needed, especially when the thought of separating the partials never came up, because there's no way you should get 20-some acres for $20.
Exactly.
We will come back to the board with
Very
a
good.
summary based upon follow-up discussions with each bidder.
Okay.
And so the board is brought up to date as to where we're at on each property. And if there are others that haven't submitted a bid that are interested, I would encourage any board member or the administration to have them get a hold of us so we can at least have that. Like I say, under Michigan law, you have a legal obligation when you do construction on a building or when you buy materials, supplies, and equipment. You don't have a legal obligation to go out and solicit bids. So we can talk to other potential users. That's what I'm saying. So if there are others out there, and I apologize if a group is not on this list that should be, we will work with them.
All right, I'll reach out and follow up.
Okay, great.
Any board members have any additional questions? Okay, thank you, Truman.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, I will now call on Superintendent Jones to present action items to the board.
All right, good evening. I seek a motion and a second from the board to approve Resolution 1.1, Personnel Recommendations.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, it has been properly moved and second. Is there any discussion?
I have a discussion.
Trustee Rutherford?
I'd like to note the administration assignment for the MTSS supervisor. I would like to have that pulled out for discussion.
Okay, is there any?
Point of
Trustee McIntyre?
information, is that a motion to separate?
I would like, I'm sorry, yes. I want to have a discussion, not so much. It's based on our discussion. I just want to have a discussion prior to. I may not want to take it out, but I want to discuss that, okay?
So this is in discussion?
Okay.
Okay.
So it's been seconded?
Has it been second?
Okay, thank you. So I need to make a motion to talk about that?
We're in discussion.
No, we're in discussion. Go ahead.
We're in
Yeah, go
discussion.
ahead.
All right, okay, so I guess it's with me. This is my question. Is this a new grant?
11S is not a new grant.
Superintendent, it's not a new grant?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so my question is, why did the job description change if it's not a new grant? Because that was my one question. Because when the job description changed to just keep fairness across the board, I'm under the impression that this must come before the board when because we approve these. So if we approve these and there's a change with a job description, I think we should know, and that's why I wanted to bring this to the board. So did anyone request a job change on this without a new grant?
So the 11S grant.
Hold on, Mr. Superintendent. I'm asking the board.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did either of you request a change or previous board on this MTS? No. A job description change?
No.
Okay. So now, Superintendent, why was this job description changed?
So if there was a change in anything in the job description, I probably would need some support here, Ms. Sharita. It would not be a change as it pertains to the 11S grant. We don't determine the requirements for the grant position. If there was some type of change that we're not totally aware of what that question is about what change was there, if there was a change made, in my discussion, it was, we may make changes to something that's up there, or if they mistakenly had grammar issues, but we cannot change an 11S grant job description.
Let me make myself clear. This MTS supervisor job, you all have the documentation. It was my desire that we could settle this before we come here. Now, this concerns me, and the reason why it concerns me is because you had a going-out supervisor recommend one of his subordinates for the position. And the statement was, I don't have a master's of social work. Well, that's not required. It wasn't required. So if he recommended her and provided a letter of recommendation, and she's in the district, and she was doing the job, why did she not get an interview? That bothers me.
Okay, so
I'm not finished. And when I ask, when something is asked for you all, I never want to hear that you tell me I need a FOIA. That's disrespectful, very disrespectful. So this right here, this right here, it bothers me to no end because I know it's a pattern to this. So go ahead, Ms. Galloway.
what is your question?
My question is, why did the job description change if the grant did not change?
Can you speak specifically to what the change was?
You tell me, because at one
There
time.
was not a change
Why
to
did
the
she-
job description.
Okay, so you had an employee doing a job that wasn't qualified to do the job for the entire
That is not
summer.
accurate.
That's not accurate?
No, ma'am. He had a master's in social work.
He said it wasn't required.
Based on what?
So that's why this need to be pulled out.
Right.
Let's pull this out because this position has been empty for 6 months.
More than that.
Okay, but since the young lady left the district. People leave bad bosses, not jobs.
Okay.
So there's no need us having a conversation with you because there's just further, because you can't provide me with what I need right now.
So I will add, Amy from MDE did have a requirement sent in an email to us in August that we must require the social worker to have the licensing, the master's in social work. So we have an email from Amy from MDE requiring this in August, stating that they had to do some changes. We only follow the 11S grant and what the grant tells us to do. So like I stated, we don't keep a record of changes as it pertains to if a requirement comes down, we just do the requirement and we put the job out as it is required. I don't think that there is anything else to that except for us following the 11S grant.
With all due respect, that should have been communicated before today. So I'm just going to appeal that we need to make a policy change for whatever a grant requires. If it's going to change our personnel, I think the board need to know about it because we need to approve it. You can't approve something that you don't know anything about. And that's being very disingenuous to go ahead and make a change to something that's as important as this position and then want to slide it through. That needs to stop today.
May I speak?
I'm finished.
Yes, ma'am.
As I said previously, the HR department is not aware of any changes to the job description or the job posting for this job. The job description that was listed, that was applied for, that this current candidate qualifies for, is the same qualifications as our previous MTSS supervisor who left us to go to Oxford in July. We are not aware of any changes. We have no idea what you're referring to.
Okay.
We cannot get clarity in regards to what the changes were. We did have a list from the previous supervisor. The candidate you are mentioning was not on that list from him that we have. And in either regard, they're still required to apply and qualify for the recommendations and the skill and education requirements on the job description. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any more questions for Ms. Galloway? Thank you, Ms. Galloway. No more discussion?
I do have a
Trustee
question.
McIntyre?
So, through President Clack to Trustee Relaford.
Yes.
Are you going to make a motion to separate? I guess.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I didn't want to cut anyone off. I'm going to make a motion to separate this.
Okay. got
Yes,
it.
yes.
Okay.
If there's no further discussion, I'm sorry. That's
No,
a
no,
yes.
is there any further discussion?
No, I just wanted to, I wasn't sure where we stood with that before discussion ended. Thank you.
What's your point?
So she made a motion, she needs a second.
Right.
Okay.
Did she make the
I didn't
motion?
make it yet.
She didn't make it yet.
I thought you
you just said you made a motion.
No. I said after the discussion, that would determine whether or not I'll make a motion to have it separated. I'd like to make a motion to have it separated. Is there a second?
So moved.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, seeing that we have a motion and a second, do a roll call vote. When I call your name,
Discussion, right?
I thought we just came out of discussion. My mistake.
No, discussion for this motion, right?
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
Point of
I'm sorry.
information.
I'm sorry.
Point of information, or
Yes.
point of order.
Yes.
That's-
So is there any discussion? Treasurer Luna?
Yeah, I think whenever we raise an issue, from our perspective as a governance board, our role is to look at the policy. When it comes to these recommendations, I don't think when they come before us, our decision is to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of it. I think what we should do is look at the policy and see how we can improve it. But I imagine this, and we're a smaller district in comparison to other urban areas in the state. Sometimes we have dozens and dozens of positions that are on this list, and I just don't think it's our role to scrutinize each one. I would trust the policy that's already existing has made its way through, and I just think it's a slippery slope if you keep scrutinizing every individual position. That being said, I think we can study this issue to improve the policy, but I think if we delay it now, I mean, this is one less educator in the classroom where we have classrooms full of students, buildings full of students. I think we need it.
It's not an educator.
Mr. Clark?
When I say educator, I mean professional in the building, not just the teachers, but the staff and the teachers.
Trustee McIntyre?
While I agree with Trustee Luna's overall general sentiment that, we need to not wade into the weeds, I think that Trustee Relaford's point is very well taken, that this points to an issue that's come up in the district before, that I think in this instance, maybe if we can take care of it now, in this instance, we won't have to be so much in the weeds at a later point. But I really appreciate Trustee Relaford's notice of this job description. I think that it's, the fact that we want to be open and transparent moving forward, even, it's not that we're not being open and transparent, but even the perceived look that we're not being fair when it comes to hiring or our HR policies. We need to change the culture of the district and make sure that even if it's not in actuality a problem, that it's not even a perceived problem. So I can appreciate what Trustee Relaford is suggesting. And hopefully moving forward, we won't have to be doing this kind of a deep dive, but in this instance, I would agree with that. Thank you.
Any more discussion? Any more discussion? Okay, we'll conduct a roll call vote on separating the job, what's the job?
It's
The MTSS supervisor from the job posting. When I call your name, please say yes or no. Yes or to approve, or no to not. Treasurer Luna?
No.
Trustee Relaford?
Yes.
Vice President King,
No.
Trustee McNeil,
Yes.
Trustee McIntyre,
Yes.
Trustee Perkins, Secretary Perkins.
Yes.
Myself, President Clack, I vote yes. So the motion passes? Motion passes 4-3. 5-2, I'm sorry, excuse me, 5-2.
Mr. President,
Vice President King.
could I, I want to make a motion to approve the rest of the personnel recommendations.
So moved.
Second.
So we separate.
What you just did is made a motion to separate. Yeah.
Right, so we moving on.
Now he wants, so since it's separated, my motion, he making a motion to approve everything else in 1.1.
Right, but, okay. Okay, seeing no other further
I
discussion,
think there's some confusion.
is there any confusion?
Mr. Clark,
Vice President King.
I will say that, so since we separated the MTSS supervisor, we still have other personnel recommendations further. And so we're supposed to vote on the other personnel recommendations. So we already separated that out. So we either vote to approve.
Point of information, so there's already a motion recommended by Superintendent Jones. So we just go ahead and vote for the rest of it, now that we've separated this out. We don't need another motion.
Right, so,
But do you want to, if there's confusion, we need to fix the confusion. So the motion that was just on the floor by Trustee Rutherford was to separate out. The one job.
We already,
Right, you still have to vote on it, but it's separate.
we voted to separate it already.
Right.
that wouldn't be on the job list anymore, that particular job.
We done.
No, it's just separate from the others. So
Okay.
she just separated it.
Okay.
So, because she wanted to have discussion on it.
Okay,
We already
I'll just stay where I'm at.
That's done.
Okay, so I seek a motion and a second from the board to approve resolution 1.1, personnel recommendations with the separation of the MTSS supervisor.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, just give me 1 second. Give me 1 second.
It's not going to be on the script, President Clark.
No, we still on the same one.
Okay.
I did.
And then I'm going to seek a motion to approve the MTSS supervisor,
Okay,
because they're separate.
all right, so we're voting on resolution 1.1.
Without.
Without that
Yes.
one, okay, all
Yes.
right, just making sure. All right, Treasurer Luna,
Yes.
Trustee Rutherford,
Yes.
Vice President King,
Yes.
Trustee McNeil.
Yes.
Trustee McIntyre,
Yes.
Secretary Perkins,
Yes.
myself, President Clack, I vote yes. So the motion passes by a vote of 7-0. Please continue, Mr. Jones.
Yes, I seek a motion. We're going into discussion. So I seek a motion to approve the MTSS supervisor from the board tonight. You pulled it out to separate it, but you didn't pull it out to not. Now you have to vote to approve it or not to approve it. So, again, I seek a motion and a second from the board to approve the MTSS supervisor tonight, for tonight's board meeting.
So moved.
Support.
I need clarification. What did you just say?
So now, you separated it.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
But it still either has to be approved or not approved.
So it's going back to committee, I would hope, so for further discussion.
Oh, that's not separating it. That's not what separating it means.
So, Mr. Chair.
Vice President King,
All right, so while we're in discussion, I will simply say, we separated the position out. Now, we can also make the motion, I guess, to send it back to committee. I mean, that's within our rights. But now, since we separated, we do have to approve or deny. I mean, that's where we're at now, unless,
There's a
again,
motion
a
made.
board member
Makes a motion to
make a
send it
motion to
back.
put it back to HR subcommittee. I mean, that's where we're at now.
I
So,
make the motion to put it back to HR subcommittee,
We in the middle of a motion.
period.
We in the middle.
Trustee, we're in the middle of a motion, but
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
Shouldn't be that difficult.
so we're in the middle of a motion, it was moved and supported.
I think he's slick.
now we're in this.
We're in discussion right now.
yes.
Are there any consequences of us delaying this position when it comes to candidates or just instruction in the building?
I would say so. This is a candidate, I believe, that we've made an offer to since December, and because of the transitions, we were not able to bring this personnel recommendation forward. This position has been vacated since June 30th, and so the critical services that is coordinated by this supervisor has been lacking the immediate support that they need. There was an audit. This is a part of the legislative set-aside that the district receives because of the water crisis, specifically to support classroom aides, school social workers. And so the Michigan Department of Education did undergo an audit by the feds, which gave us additional guidance around this grant program and even streamline what services we could provide. And so that did change some of, because before we were providing all the costs for our MTSS program. So if it was software or supplies, all those things were initially able to be funded through this grant. Because of that audit that MDE underwent, only thing that we can fund through these resources are the salaries and benefits for these individuals. So there's definitely a gaping hole when we talk about leadership. Everything that we do around funding and support for scholars must be done in an MTSS structure. And so these are critical services that definitely need to be coordinated on behalf of our scholars. So absolutely, any questions that board members or trustees have, please share, because this is critical to the work that we do daily for scholars.
Yeah, and just to add my question, and my follow-up comment was this.
Treasurer Luna.
I think the point that's being raised here is the policy from my colleague, but I guess my fear is if we do this and we do not move this recommendation forward, that we're going to have a detrimental effect on current and future candidates because they think when they apply for a job at Flint Community Schools, which to be quite frankly, we have issues with their compensation, there's another layer of doubt about, am I going to get hired? Is there going to be a delay? Or am I going to miss another opportunity? So this is my concern. And I want to make it clear, it's based on policy, not anything personal, but I have a concern with us not moving forward with this recommendation today.
Okay, Trustee Rutherford.
I appreciate that, but you already have a problem in the district where you have staff, a lot of staff that just ask the question. This is a pattern, and you have a lot of staff members that feel dejected. They spend their whole life going to college, getting the credentials, getting the endorsements, a position come up, they apply for it, and they're told they don't qualify. The morale of this district reflects that. And when you see someone that's not qualified in a position, that bothers you. So that lets me know that this board is not in touch with this district. You need to have a conversation. Our goal is to keep this district out of litigation because that's where we head with this. And so many others, but because they love the district, they just leave. Do you not see how many people are leaving this district? Y'all gotta pay attention to that. They're leaving this district because they can't get a position. And someone from outside, you always start internally because that shows stability. And I'll say it again, people leave bad bosses, not jobs. How do you train somebody and then they turn around and tell you you're not qualified? That's a kick in the face. That is a major kick in the face, and that has been the culture of this district. I ran to help right the wrong. This is a fair district. This is not a district based on your friendship. It's based on your credentials and your ability to move these babies forward. And if you're not qualified, you will not be in a position in the Flint Community School District, period. And that's policy. Thank you.
Trustee McIntyre.
So I appreciate both sides. I mean, this is something that is, super urgent, but again, to Trustee Relaford's point, something that the previous board had been asking and requesting and begging for more transparency, more information, more communication with the board. My question would be, if this has been vacant since August and working through December, why was it not raised in the HR subcommittee meeting? Was this information not?
It was.
I didn't have the information.
Okay, all right, so that was my question. So the position was brought forward, but there have been questions in the past about changing job descriptions, and don't we have Google Docs or something? I mean, you can look at changes that are made to documents that you create. It's really not that hard to have institutional memory, and I just feel like often when the board asks a question, even not in this situation, that there's often, well, we don't know, we weren't aware of it, Superintendent Jones said if there was a change, well, was there a change or wasn't there a change? And it should be able to be documented. I mean, if there was a change, well, yes or no, was there a change or not? So I reluctantly would have to move this back to committee, only because we really need to, and we've been asking to stop this precedent, to stop this. Maybe we can move forward more expediently in the future if requests like Trustee Relaford's are honored and listened to, and we change this culture. So I appreciate that, but I also appreciate Trustee Luna's concern about we've got to get this done. So that's the balance I face. Yeah.
Vice President King.
A couple of things, okay. Does this person inside this position, I mean, that's recommended for this position, meet the qualifications? Who am I asking my question? I mean, who answered that question?
Yes.
Okay. So, do you know what the qualification that's required? What's
They
the
have to have a
qualification?
master's in social work.
Have to have a master's in social work. And what-
License.
And the license. So you have to have a master's in social work. Can you say that one more time? Okay. Okay.
Masters
Okay, I'll wait till she get here. So the position is, what I would request for me and me only, for everybody, but in my mind, this is what I'm requesting, is to see a job description of this position and where it says the qualifications are. That's something I request so I can be able to see with my own eyes. Now, what I don't want our board to get into is something that, I mean, MASB tell you 100%, you look, but you don't touch. I mean, our job is not to get into the weeds, as our Treasurer Luna has said. That's not our job. We have so many things to worry about. I think this is worth a discussion about, I guess, the job description process, as our older board members are aware of, that, I mean, I'm not privy to. However, I'm afraid of this precedent that we're setting, that we always have this issue. I don't want HR to be full of, we gonna prove this person and prove that person. That's not our, okay. Do I gotta move over or no? Or I can stay
He
here?
has to step out for a second.
Okay, so I had to chair the meeting then, right? Yeah, I gotta chair the meeting. Okay, do I need to move over or no? I can stay where I'm at? Okay, good. So,
Something happened.
Okay, so my point is, I don't want us to set a precedent that we got to keep taking people out of, taking personnel recommendations out. That's just a bad precedent that we're setting. We should not, I don't personally think I should have to question the integrity of the administration unless I'm given a reason to. That's for me. Is it worth a discussion in HR? Yes, but I just want to see where it says that LSM, right? LSM is the requirement.
LMSW. It's a license. So
Let me-
there's a Master's of Social Work.
Let me write that down. One
Yeah,
second. You
there's
say
4,000 hours of credits that you have to have, 4,000 hours of experience that
Okay.
you have to
So-
qualify for the license.
Okay, so what, so L.
Postgraduate.
Say this one more time. L.
MSW.
MSW.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll be looking for that in that qualifications. Do any of my colleagues have any further discussion? Trustee McNeil.
Everybody's giving a good, valid point, but we have to realize in making our decision, we had an interim there that was doing the job. We just had somebody come to the podium that been in the district. We have a habit of looking over in-house, and we have been talking about that for the last couple of years. You know, give them an opportunity to get to the next level. We have a teacher making barely $40,000 a year, and we got teachers coming in right off the block, making more money. I'm just not going to support this right now, and I support that we go back to HR and let's start this process off the right way.
Okay. Any of my colleagues have Trustee McIntyre.
Yes, so thank you for your indulgence. I just wanted to point out that I am concerned about the level of discourse on the board where I think Trustee Relaford's questions and inquiries are very valid and legitimate, and it's not, I'm concerned about how it's being equated with questioning the integrity of the administration or the staff. I don't see it that way at all. I think that that's a false equivalency. And so I would just really caution us, or not caution us, but just kind of suggest that we be careful the way that we treat our fellow board members, because having critical discussions isn't questioning integrity. It's asking the needed questions that we have to do to move the board forward, or move the business of the board forward. So thank you for that.
President Clapp. I'd like to amend my motion, and because I want to amend it so to go back to subcommittee, but I want to reference policy 2400 in the leadership policy. Policy 2400 is why I bought it, based on that, because we're responsible for hiring.
Yes.
And to Vice President King, it had to have changed for her not to be eligible. So we want to see what it changed from, because the job description changed. I don't care about the new one. I want to see the old one. And why did it change? Because no board member requested that change. So I would like, if no one objects, I'd like to amend my motion that it go back to subcommittee for further discussion.
Support.
Okay.
You still ask for discussion?
It's still a motion.
Right, so is there any discussion to send this motion back to subcommittee, HR subcommittee?
It's been motion and second.
Okay, it's been. Trustee
Information,
Maxwell?
point of information, I'm confused about parliamentary procedure. Can you amend your, or can you make a friendly amendment? I mean, is it a friendly amendment? To the motion?
To her own motion?
Is that,
I can
yeah.
make a motion.
Okay.
To her own motion?
Okay.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Can it just simply be tabled if that's what you're going to do? Because if we're in the middle of a motion to either approve or not approve, if the board decides to table it, then we don't have to go through the steps of.
We'll take it, whatever it takes. I just don't want it to go through tonight. Thank you.
So is it,
You got to make that motion.
is it a motion that you motion?
I make the motion to table it
Support.
Can we have a support?
Please, you all, thank you.
Support.
It shouldn't take, it's not that hard. We know what we're doing. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Galloway. Okay, so we're gonna take a roll call vote, and we're gonna vote to table this discussion back to well, just table it to a later date. Okay, all right. Secretary Perkins,
Yes.
Treasurer Luna,
No.
Trustee McIntyre,
To table?
Yes.
Yes.
Treasurer Rutherford,
Yes.
Trustee
McNeil.
McNeil, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Yes to table.
Vice President King,
No.
myself, President Clack, yes to table. Okay, to move forward. It has been, who?
5-2.
So we are on,
Yeah,
You gotta
moving.
call the vote.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, I seek a, you ready? We ready? I'm ready. Okay. I seek a motion and a second from the board to approve Resolution 11.1 through Resolution 11.6 for approval in tonight's board meeting.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, it has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Just a
Trustee McIntyre.
point of information. So is your batching 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, 11.4, 11.5, 11.6, and excluding 11.7 is,
I'm sorry, I don't have a 7.
I don't have a 7.
Yeah, we have.
You in finance and operations, Lord, you in finance and operation, you going too far.
That's where we,
That's what it is,
That's where we are.
11.7.
No, we in action 11.1, right?
No, 11.7, you said 11, you said from 11.1
I
to
don't-
11.6.
I don't have a 7.
I don't have a 7
I have
either.
11.
We got a 7.
Which is authorization to approve changes order to Santac. Remember that change order?
yeah. I was just wondering if there was a reason to separate it, yeah.
You never approved that. You never approved that.
So it's not in here.
No, we never approved that.
This does matter because this is my script, so it matters.
Said it didn't matter.
Excuse me. One moment, board members. Okay, so there was an item that Mr. Henderson, when they talked about the parking lots, Brownell should have been included in that work last week. And it should have been, yes, it should have been included last week, and it was not included. It should have been included. So Mr. Henderson brought that out to me, that it was not included. It was not on the document. Mr. Henderson brought that out, and we let our executive assistant know to make sure that that's on the document this week. But the board has already approved the parking lots, but it needed to be, there was a change order into making sure that Brownell was included, that's all. That's really all that happened. But it's just not, I just didn't see it on my script. So I would say Resolution 11.1 to Ms. Laura's, to Laura's point, 11.2, 11.3, 11.4, 11.5, 11.6, and 11.7, which would include the Brownell change order for Brownell to be included in parking lots.
Support.
So, Mr. President, I make a motion we approve items 11.1 through 11.7 as a batch.
Support.
Okay. Is there any more discussion?
And just to be clear, we're going to batch them first, then approve them.
Right. So we're, Trustee McIntyre.
So, just so that I'm clear, because
Yeah.
I'm a little confused. In the COW meeting, we did not have 11.7, or we had 11.7, but there were, it didn't Okay,
You did not have 11.7, and you should have.
and we should have.
Right.
Okay.
It should have been in there.
So, just a point of information, is it, I know that we're supposed to bring things through to the committee of the whole and then pass it on to the regular board meeting. Will this, are we able to do this? I mean, I would like to do it, but is this something that is permissible? I'm still a little shaky on.
So it is because it's a change order,
Mhm.
and it had already been approved, but the change order means that there's certain parts of the specs that needed to be changed in order to make this right. So change orders are gonna come back to the board all the time, and they could come in the cow, and they could not come in the cow.
So through the president, this is to Superintendent Jones, this is all above board and
Yeah, absolutely.
this is according to, okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
The only issue is the fact that I just didn't have it here, but it is something,
Okay.
a change order that we
Yeah.
need to make.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
I'm just tired. Thank you
I
for your
am.
patience.
Trustee Treasurer Luna?
Yeah, I just restate my motion. My motion was to batch items 11.1 through 11.7.
Okay.
Was there?
You looking for a second, or you just restating the motion?
No, you said that the first time.
Yeah, just
Right, okay,
restate.
you just restating so everybody can
Yeah.
have clarity. Okay.
So-
Okay, it has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion?
So, I'm so sorry. So, is there a need to batch this if you have made a motion or called for a motion?
It's already batched.
It's
Already
al-
Yeah.
It's already batched, so we
It's-
don't have to vote on batching it
No.
because you've,
It-
and we've already.
I've already made the motion, you're second the motion.
Okay.
So the confusion is just our scripts, right?
That's it.
So it's nothing with you all, it's just
So
our
we're just
scripts is
making
just off.
one
Are
vote
just off.
because we already have
We've
the
already
motion
voted,
for
yeah.
11.1 through 11.7.
Right, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to clear it up. The only confusion was Superintendent Jones's and our script, my script. So that was it. Everything else is correct. The agenda's correct, it's just our script is a little bit off.
Okay,
So
but we don't have to vote on a batch because it's.
It's already in
already
it.
batched.
Yeah, it's already batched,
Yes.
right. So, it has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion?
Mr. President, we talked about this in subcommittee and committee of the whole, so I think I feel good with these items being approved.
Okay, so seeing no further discussion, the motion to approve resolution 1.1 through 11.1 through 11.7 will be conducted by roll call vote. As I call your name, please say yes or no to approve this motion. Treasurer Luna.
Yes.
Trustee Rutherford, she stepped out to you. Vice President King.
Yes.
Trustee McNeil.
Yes.
Trustee McIntyre.
Yes.
Secretary Perkins.
Yes.
Myself, President Clack, I vote yes. The vote passes six yes, 0 no. Please continue, Mr. Jones.
Before I continue, we have two 11.1s.
Say that again?
We have two 11.1s, and I want to make sure that we fix this. We have an 11.1 for Human Resource, and we have an 11.1 for Finance and Operations Committee. We can't have two 11.1s. Or can we have two 11.1s?
Because it's in a different category.
Two different.
I want to hear that from,
Oh, okay.
I just want to hear it from Ms. Beard. On the agenda, Human Resource and Finance and Operations. I just don't want to get caught in the technicality for our work.
Yeah, the first one should have been 1.1.
Okay.
It's an item for human resources.
So on the record board, I just want to make it clear that Human Resources is 1.1, not 11.1. And the 11.1 should be in Finance and Operations Committee, just for the record. All right. In your packet, board members, you will find Finance and Operations reports. They are 12.5, 12.6, and 12.7. Do any board members have any questions for our CFO?
President, I have one question.
Treasurer Luna?
Not directly to the numbers. They make sense to me. I saw them a few days ago when they were sent. Really, my question was, do we have any data on the count day? And are there any implications for our actual budget this calendar year?
So we're coming up on the days. We should be receiving the report from our enrollment department in the next couple of days. But we try to leave out 10 days for our team. So 10 days out, you get 10 days out from the count day in order to count those scholars. So you will have a report soon as I get it.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, that's it.
Okay.
You want me to move on?
Please continue, Mr. Jones.
All right, I seek a motion and a second from the board to approve Resolution 21.11, Resolution 21.12, and Resolution 21.13.
So moved.
Support.
It has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing no further discussion, the motion to approve Resolution 21.11, Resolution 21.12, and Resolution 21.13 will be conducted by a roll call vote. As I say your name, please say yes or no to approve the motion. Treasurer Luna. Treasurer Luna.
Yes.
Trustee Rutherford.
Yes.
Vice President King.
Yes.
Trustee McNeil.
Yes.
Trustee McIntyre.
Yes.
Secretary Perkins.
Yes.
Myself, President Clark, I vote yes. The vote passes by a vote, seven yes, 0 no. Please continue, Mr. Jones.
I seek a motion and a second from the board to approve Resolution 25.1, Resolution 25.2, Resolution 25.3, Resolution 25.4, Resolution 25.5 for approval in tonight's board meeting.
Support.
So
We
moved.
gotta make the motion.
So moved.
Okay, lady support. Dr. Jones.
You'd have to say so moved.
I said so moved.
Okay, so moved and support, yeah.
Right, okay. All right, so it has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Quick question.
Treasurer Luna?
Yeah, so I want to say this clearly so I don't get out of order, but I'm glad we're doing all these approvals. And here's my issue. We had opportunity to discuss a school safety issue at governance this past Monday. And before that, we had a chance to do that, but there was no quorum, and we made an effort to do that. And I felt confident that would have made this board agenda, but it didn't. So through to the superintendent, at some point, I want to discuss this tonight, and hopefully my colleagues would give the chance for us to do that. Would that be allowable tonight?
So I would think in your comments, if there's a motion you want to make, you can make it during your board comments.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any discussion? Any more discussion? Okay, seeing there's no further discussion, the motion to approve Resolution 25.1 through 25.5 will be conducted by a roll call vote. As I say your name, please say yes or no to approve this motion. Treasurer Luna.
Yes.
Trustee Rutherford.
Yes.
Vice President King.
Yes.
Trustee McNeil.
Yes.
Trustee McIntyre.
Yes.
Secretary Perkins.
Yes.
Myself, President Clark. Yes. Vote passes 7 yes, 0 no. Mr. Jones.
Yep. So I'm going to ask our Executive Director of Academics to come. By way of MDE and our federal government, we must continue to come to our board with information about where we are academically. And so this presentation is not just being done in Flint Community Schools. This has to be done as a mandate with all of our Genesee County districts. So we want to make sure that we are presenting this information to you tonight. So we're going to give it over to Ms. Deanna Cleveland to give you a quick update. And if there's any board questions, please, by all means, ask. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, board members, and thank you for having me here tonight.
So what you can expect is just an update on the board. There will be an update given on the goals that was established in the fall of 2022, which was this still current year, as well as where we are on our mid-year benchmark assessment results. I will also be providing an update on adjustments that was made as we looked at our middle of the year data, along with some areas of focus for the remainder of the school year. So when we look at our middle of the year data, it also aligns with our theme that Superintendent Jones has been putting at the forefront. But in the world of academics, when we look at our middle of the year data, it gives us the opportunity to renovate those academic plans and systems that was established at the beginning of the school year. And we still want to continue to build those possibilities for our scholars. So when we're looking at our middle of the year data, what you see in front of you is our tiered approach that has also been presented before. We are looking at that tier 2 approach where we are reviewing those SBA goals that was set at the beginning of the year. And I know we talked before about those acronyms. SBA is, SBA goals that the principals set at the beginning of the year. So just going back, in the fall, all building principals set goals in the areas of attendance, academics, and behavior for their schools. In regards to NWEA, each building leader set NWEA student growth targets in the area of math and literacy for their schools. They used our spring results, our spring 2022 results, to set their goals for this upcoming spring 23 results, and they set them with at least a 10% increase. So where are we? So for our benchmark assessments that you're about to hear, that you're about to see the results for, are our DIBELS, NWEA, math, and reading. So I'll start with our DIBELS. DIBELS stands for Dynamic Indicator of Basic Early Literacy Skills. This assessment is given to our K-3 scholars, and it tests those reading foundational skills. So in the fall, we were able, as a district, we were able to test at least 90.6% of our scholars. So what you see here is where we are at this point. So in the winter, you see that as a district, 16.6 of our scholars were at or above benchmark. So when we look at this data, and what I'm presenting to you is when we're looking at, are we growing scholars? Do we want this to, are we where we want to be? No. We know there's work that we still need to get done. And so this is where we are at this point with our DIBELS for our K-3 scholars. For NWEA winter completion rates. So for our NWEA, we gave both the math and the reading. There were other schools that gave the other subject areas, but our focus was on our math and reading. We had a completion rate of 88.3% in math that completed the test. And then in reading, we had 88.7%. So in reading, in our winter test, we have 40.1% of our scholars who met their growth projections. So growth projections are set by NWEA based off of their previous performance in the fall, and NWEA gives them a projection of where they think they should be by the time they take the winter test, and we have 40.1% of our scholars reach their growth targets this past winter. In the area of math, same thing. We have 44.2% of our scholars meeting their growth projections in the area of math. And I'm sorry if I said math before. The first one is reading, this one is math. So what happens when we look at our middle of the year data? There are some guiding questions that our building leaders use when they're looking at their data. Number one, are we on track to reach our end of the year school goals? The other question is, what can we celebrate? A lot of times we look at data and we feel disheartened. There's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of challenges that our schools are facing. So
when we look at our data, we have to first look at what can we celebrate? Because we know we're coming to work every day, and we have to find that lining to know that something that we're doing is working. And then once we look at that, we also ask, what adjustments can we make that are within our control? So when the winter data came out, there was some ways that this data was addressed. So we had building leaders. They reviewed their winter NWEA along with their behavior and attendance data with their leadership teams to make any needed adjustments. There were individual conversations that were held with each building principal around their progress on their SBA goals. Building principals reviewed essential NWEA reports to dig deeper into their data and to analyze student growth, and they also created some action plans to address those student needs. Some examples of the mid-year adjustments that were made by our building leaders. They were working with staff and HR to make building adjustments such as classroom leveling and moving staff to different positions. And I really wanted to bold that because that is a very big need right now for us in our buildings. There was some adjustment to schedules in an attempt to increase opportunities for professional learning community meetings to discuss student needs. There was reviewing of our building literacy plans, and then there was adjustments to those small groups in the areas of reading and math based on student needs. So moving forward, we will continue to participate in the planned MSU Fellowship of Instructional Leaders to focus on improving our systems. Also working on the implementation of our current literacy plans that came out of the work with the MSU Fellowship. And then moving forward in our fellowship this year, we are going to be creating district-wide math plans. We're going to continue to utilize data to monitor student growth, also utilize an exact path, which is a tool that we use to monitor student progress and continue to build capacity around that. And just to give you a little information about that, exact path is aligned to our NWEA. So when the scholars take the NWEA, the results go into exact path, and it creates learning paths in an attempt to close those gaps. Building leaders will continue to monitor school goals and adjust as needed to reach those end-of-the-year goals that was set in their SBA plans. We are also going to work with MDE to align our current academic goals and targets into the upcoming partnership agreement to improve student achievement. And for this last one, I do want to say thank you for your previous approval, because now we can offer additional tutoring services to our scholars. Thank you. Yes, ma'am?
Hi, you was giving a lot of data, but do you do any update on that M-STEP?
Well, I didn't do an official update, but I can include it in our, when we get the results, because we'll take it in the spring. And so I can report out when we come back in the fall.
What impact does that have, having that data, the M-STEP? Would that help give us an idea where the kids are at?
What are you saying?
You meant
the
updates, yeah, the scores for your M-STEP. I want to know, do you give updates for the M-STEP scores?
Yes, I gave updates to the principals, but if the board desires that I let you guys know, I definitely can include that in my presentation, yes.
President. Hey, good evening, Mr. Miller.
Wait a minute, hold on.
Oh, sorry. My apologies.
Quick questions. I saw the completion rate, I think, was it Dibbles? Was it Dibbles or NWEA?
I gave both.
Okay. Both of them was like 88%, around 80%. So what are the challenges for scholars not completing?
Attendance.
Okay.
Attendance is a big challenge across the district.
So what are we doing to tackle that challenge?
Building principals are working with their attendance agents to target those scholars that are They're working with their attendance agents, so those chronic scholars that are absent, to try to come up with plans on how they can get them in school. Building principals are also working with their teams around PBIS and those initiatives of what can they do to get scholars to want to come to school. So those are just some of the things that they're doing.
Question, so do we offer testing when they come to school, or is this a window that we have to test them in?
Well,
and that's
there
it?
is a window, but in that window, there is a opportunity for makeup testing. And so it's just, on a case-by-case basis, if there's a scholar who's having some challenges, with getting to school, then, we're trying to work it out, for them to get there, but yes.
So what is the window usually? So I tell you my point. So my point is simple. If they can't make it that day, is like the next day they have to make it up, or can they take it like a couple of days?
Yeah, so what usually happens is each building will have a testing schedule where they give the test. The test normally, they may have a day or two, but just within that window, if they come, they can take the test, yes.
So if I may,
Mhm.
if I may,
Go ahead, that's-
the testing window is how long?
So the testing window is about 2 weeks,
So they have 2 weeks to complete the test,
yes.
and they take the test on a one day, or how many days spread out do they take the test?
So it's usually how the building schedules it. They have a window of 2 weeks. So within that 2 weeks, they have the flexibility of when they want to give the test.
And teachers really support in determining with those scholars. Say, for instance, Teray and Mr. Kevlin came in, and the window was closed, and teachers would do their best to try to get those scholars tested as long as they're tested in that window. So if Jimmy doesn't finish within the hours that the teacher is actually testing that day, then the teacher might have Jimmy do it the next day. Or if something happened and Jimmy got in trouble or he got sick, then the teacher would just try to finish and get him all set before the window closes. So it's not
So we have 2 weeks.
to get all of the scholars in your classroom tested.
Oh, okay. I just don't see how, of course, there's unique challenges to them not getting tested, but they have 2 weeks. So I just don't get how they're not being tested. Like, the ones that's absent, I guess, I guess you do have case, okay. But I want them all tested. I just want everybody to, go through testing, not just 88. I want to see like 90s, so we have real good data, like a holistic, 80-some% is like overwhelming majority, but I'm looking for higher numbers. But thanks, appreciate it.
Did you want to, Treasurer Luna?
Yeah, real quick. As we look at the growth data with NWA, as far as like the macro trends, have you seen any changes with where students are performing better and have the same challenge, or have the same challenges compared to the last academic year? Because it sounds like this year, for the most part, there's been less COVID interruptions. There's been 2 snow days or 2 days we've called off. I'm just curious what has changed. You know what I mean? Because if you're missing days in and out and you're doing hybrid, remote, or in person, I'm guessing some areas on the standards students struggled more than others, or maybe that's not the case.
Yeah, so this current year, when we look at previous year, there has been some struggles with our scholars. A lot of our scholars, when we look into our data, NWEA as well as DIBELS have domains. And we find that a lot of our scholars are coming in and they are struggling in those foundational domains. And so even though, they're coming back from COVID, there were struggles even prior to COVID. But even when we look at this year, there was somewhat of a dip compared to last year. And I think a lot of that right now is the need for staff.
Thank you so much, Mr. Freeman.
I have one question, just a small. Is there any outreach from the principals to the parents around testing time to make sure that they know what's coming up and to make sure they get their kids to school?
Yes.
Can I actually follow up for that?
Sure. Yes, Vice
What does
President
that
King.
communication look like?
Robocalls or flyers that go home.
Is there any update on the website, do you know? when it's around that time?
No,
No update, or you don't know?
no, I don't know.
Okay,
No.
but we can do that though, right?
We can put a flyer up.
Mhm.
It would just be a general flyer stating we're testing in this season.
Cool. Vice President King.
I just want to quickly say, I do know the work of the attendance agents are really impactful, getting the students there so we can have high test scores that we got 88% or something around that nature. Did want to make that acknowledgement. The attendance agents are good vital parts of our district to get our scholars to school and make sure they're there.
This was actually very creative. When I found out, when I came to Flint, I was like, attendance agents, wow.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Treasurer
And
Luna?
one last question, I'm sorry, that was my last question before. Just for us, because we're not, well, Mr. President is, but we're not practitioners in K-12 right now. Could you expound upon how attendance and educator vacancies are affecting both test completion, but also their performance on these growth measurements?
Well, we all know if they're not in school, they're not there to learn, right? And so they can come back and, teachers can do the best that they can to catch them up. However, the more that they are out of school, the further they get behind. The vacancies, that's impacting our scholars because of the fact that, we have either a sub coming in day to day, you need a consistent teacher in the classroom. And so that impacts a lot of the day-to-day instruction. And so, whether we can find a sub or whether a class has to be broken down, that's not effective instruction. Effective instruction is a certified teacher in front of a class every single day.
Because I haven't taught in over 5 years, but I imagine when I was a teacher, there were vacancies and issues with staffing. You would have to have staff constantly covering different things at once. So I'm thinking of teacher fatigue, but also just the inconsistencies. Is that a thing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Did you have something? Vice President King.
So if you can't find a substitute teacher to facilitate the test, what is the next step?
Either you ask another teacher, or you have to break the classes down into another classroom. You have to make it happen.
Okay. Well, before I say that, I'd like to thank the teachers that are breaking their classrooms down, taking that extra load of testing, more kids. Thank the teachers for, doing that. I really do. I appreciate it. Even the building principals for facilitating. I know it's tiresome, but I really appreciate you. Without that, we wouldn't have good, accurate data. So, again, to the teachers, I appreciate you.
Okay, is there any more? Mel, you got, I'm sorry.
I have a question or suggestion. In regards to the teachers doing the testing with the shortage, is there any way that the teachers can contact the administration to let them know? So maybe a certified teacher, we could probably start recruiting some certified teachers specifically for testing, because with the change in laws, a lot of retired teachers could probably just come to do the testing. I think that would be something we could look into to take a little pressure off of the day-to-day teachers, and they're seasoned.
Right now, teamwork makes the dream work.
There you go. I'm with that. Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, did you have something? Is there any more discussion for Mrs. Klingman? Any more discussion? Thank you, Mrs. Klingman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jones, and thanks again, Mrs. Klingman. Moving on. Do any board members have any comments before we adjourn?
I do, Mr. President.
Treasurer Luna.
I move that we adopt a clear backpack policy for the district, but so that's a motion. A second.
Support.
Okay. We've got a motion been supported. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, so I guess my question for the superintendent, through you, Mr. President, in your opinion, should this be district-wide, or should school leaders have discretion in which to implement this?
Thank you for the question. Based on my conversations with the UTF president and the Congress president, they absolutely want this to be district-wide. They are concerned, and as you heard in some of the comment tonight, this is a concern for teachers and this is a concern for principals. So it would be district-wide.
Thank you. That's my only question.
Any more comments?
I have a comment, if you allow me. I had an opportunity today to speak with Mr. Stewart. He was training me on expulsion. And he just talked about that there was a time when the district banned backpacks, period. And I wasn't aware of that. And he just shared some very interesting information. Like his 15 years here, there have been 3 weapons in the district. That's alarming to him, and it's alarming to me. And it's just, for me, I would ask that this board speak with him, because he's over the security. He does it all, which I didn't know until I spoke with him today. And just hearing him talk about the security of the building and what he envisions as being best for the schools. I had never spoken with Mr. Stewart, and he was just sharing about the fights and everything and how he's intertwined in that, and how can we make a decision without having a conversation with him, you guys. I think that would do us, it would be an asset for us to speak with him. So I just think in regards to this, you have mixed emotions. You know, some individuals are like, we've never had backpacks at a time. So what was going on then where the district was successful without a backpack? So with us having this information, why can't we ask the question of those who were here then to see how the district did? That's just my thoughts. Thank you.
Vice President King?
I would say that, first, I was not for the clear backpacks. The reason being is I thought that I was looking at from an entrance standpoint, how the security guard will see the backpack. Like, how would a kid could hide a weapon or contraband and, let's say, a T-shirt and wrap it up and slide into a clear backpack. But after talking to some great people, I was persuaded, because the teacher will also have the right inside the classroom to look at the backpack. You can see straight through it. You don't have to violate any, rights in that regard, but you'll be able to pinpoint it. A teacher will be able to see the backpack as well. There's more than one eyes. I was looking from another perspective, but I didn't take the perspective of another teacher or a person inside the classroom. That's other eyes on this backpack that can see through the backpack, and they can simply ask, okay, what is that, for the safety of the classroom? So I'm in support of it. I really do think that would be a nice thing to do for our teachers. If our teachers and our principals are requesting it, I was able to simply change my decision, because, they're in the classroom. So that's my comment.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Treasurer Luna?
Yeah, I just, really quick, I want to make sure the public's clear. For this specific decision, we've been talking about this for weeks. And to be frank, I wish we'd adapted it. Hindsight, 2020. But I think tonight is a good step, but it's just one tool to keep our students, staff, and community members safe while they're on our properties. And I think the unfortunate incidents at Michigan State highlight the need for us to be proactive, comprehensive, and to constantly review how we keep everyone safe on our properties. I think this is an additional tool to do that. There's a lot of work to be done in every school, but I do trust the educators and the school leaders and the administration when they say, please adopt this, because they're the ones there every day.
Anyone else before I speak?
To say anything?
Yeah, we just in discussion, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, remarks, I'm sorry. Remarks.
The backpack, oh well.
Yeah, so Secretary Perkins, go ahead.
I don't know, I have mixed feelings on the backpacks, so.
No, you can speak.
I'm good. It's all right.
Mr. Clark.
Vice President King.
To Superintendent Jones, how can we provide backpacks for our scholars? The clear backpacks, if this motion goes through, how can we provide clear backpacks to our scholars?
What do you mean? You mean like You talking about just us
So
purchasing?
when we changed the policy, right?
Yeah.
So is the district going to purchase backpacks for our the clear backpacks for our scholars to accommodate for not allowing, the,
Sure, we would not put that on our families.
Okay.
It's already something we do with providing when scholars don't have a backpack and they need a backpack. Teachers always are looking at what's going on with their scholars, and we try to provide where we can. So this is not an issue of purchasing or even having the backpacks. It's just making sure that we can do this as a policy. So we're set to go.
okay, so what funding will the purchasing of clear backpacks come from?
This is funded out of,
31A and utilize ESSER 3.
31A. What's 31A?
That's funds for at-risk scholars, and it includes safety. That's the same grant that we use to pay our school safety advocates.
So this is coming out of ESSER, but ESSER 31A. Okay. Do you have a price on how much that would look like?
So we did obtain some quotes just from December when Mrs. Fields was here, and so.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I just want to know the quotes and how will the district, do we have to do, I don't think we have to do an RFP, but, we just simple, we should be ready to transition.
what was the cost of?
$36,000 for how many bags?
That would be a bag for every scholar in the district.
$36,000 for every bag. For every student in the district. Okay. That's just flat, okay.
No, that's not what I was thinking about. Okay, Trustee McNeil.
I appreciate that motion, but as we move towards getting parent engagement and parent to participate, and that is something that these concerned that parents has been withdrawn from our school and helping supporting us, is that they don't have a voice. We ignore them. We don't listen to them. Even during testing, they say the only time you think about their kids during test day. And so they kind of retaliate and don't let the kids come to school. I think that these are their children. We should hear their voices and at least have them to have their input before we just make this decision tonight. I've been working with community, with parents and stuff. So if the board would like, do we want to have parents input, how they feel about this? I would like to say, could we wait a couple of weeks or so until we reach out to parents and let them come in and have an input?
You done? Was that it? Okay, you're after.
I was after her. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry,
guys, I did.
Trustee.
My question is, can we get a consensus from the schools, the teachers, can do like a survey monkey? I just like to see data, that's what
Yes,
they told me.
yeah.
So we look at the data, and then maybe we could send something home with the scholars and have them bring it back.
Yes.
And if they bring it back, maybe they can get some popcorn. That way we make sure that we get it, and then we'll have good data and just not our opinion.
And then it would show engagement.
And it will show engagement. Kids like
I
popcorn.
appreciate that.
So
Thank you.
Trustee McIntyre.
I'm done.
Yeah, this is I'm trying to listen to all sides, and I do, I appreciate all of the input. I do remember Principal Fields not suggesting the clear backpacks, but the no backpack policy, actually. And so I would be interested in following up on that, because that was her initial suggestion. So I'm not quite sure how we moved from that to clear backpacks. And honestly, the cost is, I think we could spend the money in a much better way. I think the idea is well-meaning, but I'm not sure, like, I think that we're basing this on emotions and not on evidence-based research. Like, is there any evidence-based research that would show that clear backpacks are a deterrent to bringing in weapons? And Trustee Relaford had some good points in the subcommittee meeting that we have like, what, 5 levels of security? And, you know, one of the issues about one of the incidents wouldn't have been stopped with a clear backpack. It was, you know, it was another issue. So I understand the importance of this issue and the concern. I mean, and I too am concerned. I also didn't get my question answered about, you know, students' rights, making sure that we don't have any possible violations, you know, especially given our track record with the ACLU. And not just from a litigation perspective, but I really am concerned about students' rights and autonomy, because I think one of the things that public schools should be teaching is autonomy and self-determination, not punitive punishments, you know, in lieu of restorative, like, justice practices. So I really would like to stay away from the school-to-prison pipeline kind of trend. So I'm just not sure if this is, you know, like virtue signaling or, you know, like a respectability thing, but I think Trustee McNeil makes a really good point about getting more parents' input, because I have gotten just, you know, calls from parents expressing concerns. You know, it's a mixed bag from the community, from the public. And so I would be inclined to either table this item until we can get more input. And again, some evidence that would show that this is going to actually do something. Or that we take that $36,000 and do, you know, put it towards more restorative practices for our scholars. I'm done, yeah. Thank you.
Mr. President, we had this before us January 19th. At that time, I'll be honest, I would have wished I had a meeting before that to ask my questions, but we didn't. So we sent it to governance. We held our governance committee, I believe, 2.5 weeks ago. We couldn't get quorum. We had board members sit in the parking lot and not come inside to make that quorum. We had a meeting this Monday. We discussed it. There's no price tag on the life of a student and keeping them safe. This is an additional tool to keep them safe. We've had almost a month to go and ask parents, people in the community. Guess what? I've met with 10 parents between now and then about this issue. I've called principals, I've called teachers, I've gone to community meetings, neighborhood meetings, parent meetings. Our job is just not at this board. We are elected officials, get in the community, get in the schools and ask these questions. The teachers are recommending it, the school leaders want it, the administration wants it. It's about keeping students safe. It's not, this is a clear example of the board getting in the way of good policy and educators. We need to approve this tonight to keep our students safe, period. And that's my comment.
Vice President King.
How many backpacks are, for $36,000, how many backpacks are being purchased? Precisely? 3,000. Okay. So, and how much left is we have in ESSER 3? Almost 80% of it is unallocated. 80%. Sorry, I don't have it. So 80% of ESSER 3 that the board had, how long? September 3rd, okay. That's all I want to know. Thank you.
Trustee Relaford.
I think for me, when I found out that the students go through their own backpacks and show them what's in it, and in the code of conduct, if they have probable cause, then they can go inside. So if you have a scholar pulling out everything in there, and you got security and the police standing right there, I mean, I guess my question is, there's no violation because the students open up their backpack, according to Mr. Stewart, and I read it in the student code of conduct. And my question is, have the board read the student code of conduct as it relates to that? So that right there would deter a lot of this confusion. So I don't think we've heard from every teacher and every parent. So we can't make a decision for every parent and every teacher until we give them the opportunity to have input about it. Only person I heard from is Miss Fields. So a couple parents I talked to, they was like, no, I don't want my baby, I don't want everybody seeing what my baby got. That's a parent, and they use the word God, so I'm just gonna repeat what they said. So we just have to be cognizant of the community and cognizant of the finances. $30,000+ for some backpacks, you guys. We can do something, emotional intelligence or something with our babies, so that's all.
Vice President King.
Okay, so
done.
to Trustee Relevant point, so as I went into the schools, I talked to some security guards. I've seen some security guards. So some of the kids are literally, some of the scholars are literally making a slit in their backpack, sliding, let's say, a vape or any kind of other materials inside cracks and crevices of backpacks. So you can show a police, the security guard there, what you got right there. But what about the other nicks and crannies that you probably created inside the backpack that the police officer don't know about? Clear backpack, you can see straight through it. There is so many ways that clear backpacks, again, I was a proponent like, nah, I don't like it, but you're able to see through it. The security guard only can see at a certain point, a certain thing on the backpack, and talking with the security guard, even seeing that some kids damage their backpacks, they good, nice backpacks to slide in contraband. A kid could unravel a gun and slide into different cracks and crevices, but I opened my backpack up, I got my books in here, but it could be other parts elsewhere that we're not seeing. You can't have that with clear backpacks. It's there. That's my question. That's my point.
Superintendent Jones.
So this is, and if this goes back, then we'll talk more about it. But the only thing I really need to say is that this is about safety. This is not if a parent is deciding whether we have metal detectors or have wands or anything as it pertains to safety, if parents are deciding that, then we're going to get mixed. We're going to get a mixed answer from that. I'm just going to tell you that. But this is about safety. So if something happens on our grounds, and this does happen, and then we are waiting on a parent, and between the time that we're waiting on to talk to parents or to do this or do that, our teachers are still showing up, and they're concerned about this. And so it's not just, even though the babies matter more than anything we're doing, but the safety of the teachers, the safety of the principals, these people are concerned about this, and this is about safety. This is not us determining a program. This is not something that, we're not talking about ESSER funds and, hey, how do you want us to use ESSER funds? We're talking about making decisions for safety in our building. And not all parents will like that, but I'm a parent of a sixth grader, a dual rider. Yes, I want them to have a clear book bag. And at sixth grade, what do you have in your book bag that I can't see anyway, or a teacher can't see anyway? So I'm just saying, I want us to keep the perspective of this is about us preventing, as a district, preventing anything from happening in our district. So I just want to make that point.
I'm sorry, Treasurer McNeil, would you like to speak? Okay, I just wanted to speak real quick because I haven't had a chance to speak. And
Point of information.
I'm sorry, yes, I'm sorry.
Point of information.
What's your point?
Mr. Chair, through you to the superintendent, can you answer my question about any evidence base that would show that backpacks indeed make us safe?
I never said that a backpack will make you safe.
A clear backpack.
I never stated that a clear backpack will make you safe. That's not what this is. This is a preventative measure so that teachers, as they stated, can see what scholars are bringing into the school. As one of the trustees stated, in elementary schools, we don't have metal detectors and wands. And this is happening in our country in elementary schools where scholars are bringing in weapons and shooting teachers. So the teachers are saying to us, yes, absolutely, we want this. So
Point of information, so to answer my question, is there any evidence that it makes us safe? That was my, so
I don't
it just
have-
would have been, you just would
I
have
don't
been
have
yes
that.
or no.
Okay. Are you satisfied? Okay, so I haven't had a chance to speak, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to echo my questions and my points that I made at the subcommittee meeting the other day. A lot of our students, a lot of our scholars are in the working field, okay? A lot of them work at certain department stores. And when you work at certain department stores, their policy is they give you a clear book bag or a clear bag to put your belongings in. Now, is that negatively looked upon, or frowned upon? Who knows? But that's the policy of the store or the business in which they work. If this becomes the policy of the district, it's another safety measure. A safety measure along with the security guards and the police and the wands and the metal detectors. It's just another safety measure. I'm a father. If the school says that we're gonna have clear book bags, me personally, in my opinion, it's not that big of a deal. Again, I'll ask the question, does it state in the code of conduct or the policy book that the book bags have to be a certain color? No. Do they have to have a certain print on them? SpongeBob, anything like that? It just states bag, correct? No color, no specific kind, no specific size, no specific anything. Okay, and I'm just gonna speak on my own behalf. I'm a teacher. A lot of the things that these kids take home every day or bring back to school are not books. They aren't tools that we need in a classroom every day. The school provides what you need, okay? So that's just my thoughts. If we adopt it today, if we vote on it today, then that's just, I personally believe that school safety, children's safety, scholar safety is more important than any price tag or any, this is another safety measure, an added safety measure. So that's just my thoughts on the situation. Anyone else like to speak? Secretary Perkins.
In the governance meeting, I mentioned how we would communicate this matter to the parents. And it was said that we weren't until we made a decision. But I do think that we needed to hear something from them, some type of survey like Trustee Rilliford said, or, get some kind of input. I understand about safety, but I got issues with safety and things I've heard this evening about, safety. I really do. And I want the children safe. Of course I do. But I don't think that this is necessarily the way. So that's my spiel right there. And that almost $40,000, that's a big chunk of change when I think if we engage the parents more. Like when we came up, when the parents were engaged more, they had a better handle on their children. And we're getting away from some of the basic stuff, and that's what's causing a lot of the problems. We got to do some things to make them more aware. I don't know what that is, but that's my position.
I just want to add that I would hate to have to be the one to explain to one of the parents if something were to happen that we just wanted to save some money.
I agree with that.
I would personally hate to be the one to make the phone call to a parent who, if something happened, in lieu of what just happened.
Point of order?
Excuse me, yes, what's your point?
Were you done with your?
Yes.
And now you're taking the floor?
I just said I let everybody speak. I wasn't speaking again.
Okay, I'm just wondering because it just sounds like you're responding back, or are you speaking for yourself?
No, I said in addition to, I didn't say I wasn't
Okay.
responding.
That was just a point of order. I was just
Okay,
trying to
no, I was
clarify.
responding, I was in addition to what I was saying, what my last statement. In addition to that, I was saying I would hate to be the person to make the phone call. I forgot to say
Keep
it.
track of where.
Yeah, no, I forgot to say it when I was, and I meant to add, in lieu of what happened yesterday, 45 minutes away. You know what I mean? Like, I think that some of those parents, I'm not sure a clear book bag would have anything to do with that situation, but this is just an added safety measure in my book. That's it. Treasurer Luna.
So I have a question and a comment. Through you, Mr. President, Superintendent Jones, could you give me a rough estimate of our ESSER dollars? It's like $140 million, right?
Actually, 150 some.
Okay, so I'm gonna do the quick math for the folks back at home. So we're gonna divide 36,000 by 150 million. That's 0.0024%. So it's not even 1% of our dollars, our one-time dollars, to keep our students safe. Now here's my comment. If we can't trust the experts, if we can't trust literally the experts, from the teachers to the principals to the administration to the public safety experts who've spoken in favor of this, on record, by the way, I may add. Parent voice is one of the most important things when it comes to making school board decisions. But again, let me reiterate, this was brought in front of us January 19th. This is February 15th. That's almost a whole month for each and every board member to attend a parent meeting, a block club meeting, speak to a parent, call a parent, propose a survey. I guarantee you, if we wanted a parent survey, it should have been raised a month ago. This is about keeping the folks who we hold dear safe. So it's so frustrating to me that, again, we keep repeating things of us getting in the way of keeping safe when the experts say otherwise. I tell you what, not comparing students to customers or whatever, but when you go to a hospital, when you go to a restaurant, when you go to a police department, guess what? Folks who come there use those services, yes, customers, concerned citizens, folks who are using the services provided by the nurses and doctors, they're not the experts. We got elected by the community, by parents, to make good decisions and to listen to the experts in the room, and we need to do that tonight. If we don't, I think it sends a wrong message to how we keep our students safe, how we govern the budget, how we right-size. Everything we do comes into question. That's my opinion. That's my last comment on the matter.
Is there any more discussion? Any
I
more
called the
remarks?
question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. I would ask the board, no, I would tell the board, we have an obligation to the district employees to keep them safe. If teachers want it, our administrators want it, our building principals that's there every day with scholars, why not? So, excuse me?
No, that was saying that he called the question. Did you
I
rescind
took it back. Go ahead.
Okay.
No, you're fine. I had to go.
We have an obligation to our district employees to keep them safe. Also to our scholars to keep them safe. I remember when the metal detectors came into Flint School District. I was like, oh, why are we doing that? But now we have caught so many contraband coming in our schools, preventing tragedies. We caught them because of those simple safety measures. I echo Treasurer Luna in that. $36,000 when you have so much. We haven't even allocated yet. The board hasn't allocated, and it's been there for a couple of years now. That's $36,000 for keeping scholars safe. There's no price tag on keeping scholars safe. Because at the end of the day, if something happens, we're going to have a room full of parents. Y'all didn't do nothing. We're trying. It's clear backpacks the all be all? No. But we have to take some steps. Like I say, I was a proponent. I was like, I don't agree with it. But thinking about it, teachers, building administrators that's in the rooms with scholars every day during a teacher shortage, we can talk about wages, we go all the way through. This is a simple request teachers, adults in the room are asking. Parents may not agree with it. We sometimes don't agree with all kinds of safety measures that's going on in this country, but it's to keep them safe. I just don't understand. It's $36,000, minute percentage of what we have. We haven't allocated nothing. We haven't did nothing. This is something we can do to be proactive, to be behind teachers. We say we want to support teachers, support people that's inside the schools. When they come and ask you for it, nope. Oh, we have to do more research. There's no data. How can you have data on backpacks? I mean, you can ask the security guards when you go into the schools. How much stuff have you caught? We have a police officer here that's, liaison in schools. She probably sees more than what we see. This is simple Safety measures. Again, like I say, I close it. You know, you know what? I'll make this point. I'm glad to see our board talking about policy issues over personality, though. I have to give credit to this board. We're talking about policy-driven things. And that's something I think the community should not miss, because our board is talking about something that's policy-driven, which our job is. Thank you.
Mr. Clark. It's my last point.
Treasurer, Trustee Rutherford, I'm sorry.
I guess for me, I would like to see scanners in the building. I would like to see a better security in the building. If we go invest the money, can we invest it in some retired police officers working in the building? If we go invest something. A clear backpack, I was for it, but I got to thinking. A kid can fold up anything inside of a backpack and how you go see it. So if anything, like Principal Fields said, she said no backpacks. That was her request, no backpacks. And to hear that the district had a no backpack policy. So a simple text to family, to the parents, like you do the robocalls, are you for clear backpacks or no? A simple survey monkey to the district. Are you for backpacks, clear backpacks, or no? You can have your results within a day, period. And all we want to do is give them an opportunity to have input. Not that they're going to make the decision, but that's the issue. They don't feel like they're being heard. But at least they can say, they asked me. That's all we're asking. I believe that's what people are asking on here as a board. Just allow them an opportunity to be heard. If they say yes, they say yes. They say no, we heard them. But a scanner will help. Better security will help. Period. That's all. Thank you.
Any more remarks? Right, so there's a motion, right?
It's time to vote.
To adopt the bags, right?
Yep, that's the motion.
Okay, if there hasn't been seconded, we was in discussion, correct?
Yep, we had discussion.
Okay, we're in discussion, right? Okay.
Could you restate the motion,
Right,
Mr. President?
Right, so we need to take the vote, roll call vote. Okay, so the motion was to adopt the clear book bags tonight, correct? Right. Okay, so we're going to conduct a roll call vote. When I call your name, please say yes to adopt or no, not. Secretary Perkins.
No.
Can you speak? I didn't hear you.
No.
Okay. Treasurer McIntyre. I'm sorry. I'm ready to go.
You
I'm
got the
so sorry.
McIntyre.
Trustee McIntyre.
Thank you. No.
Okay. Trustee McNeil.
No.
Treasurer Luna.
Yes.
Trustee Rutherford.
No.
Vice President King.
Yes.
Myself, President Clark, I vote yes. So, was that 4-3?
4-3.
Passes 4-3.
Fail.
Oh, I'm sorry. Failed 4-3. I'm sorry. Ready to go. So, with that being said, anybody have any comments?
I do. I would like to showcase our scholar representative, Mason Cusack. I met with him early this morning. Great guy. Great scholar representative. We had a great conversation about policies. He's looking forward to working with the board, getting to know everyone, and he has a heart to serve the students. So I did want to congratulate him on, he had to leave, but I did want to congratulate him on his position. And also, I say it again, I'm glad our board talked about policy. I am excited, even though, I didn't, decide didn't win on that part, but I'm glad to see our board talk about policy for our kids, our scholars. I'm excited for it. Like, I'm going to leave here head held high because our board talked about policy. Thank you.
Okay, any more remarks? Secretary Perkins.
Yeah, I'd like to know what was the dollar amount that we spent on Danielle Green's legal fees last week?
Off your head. Do you want me to? Do you want me to answer that? All right, $6,000.
$6,000. And I also want to know, since we following policy and protocol, why did it even come up? Because the reason I'm asking that question is, I know 5 of us weren't even on the board at that time. and nobody brought it in any of the sub-meetings or anything. Why was it brought up? Was there a meeting that we didn't know about?
Is she asking a response from the board, Mr. President?
Would you like to respond?
Yeah, so any board member, although I believe it's best practice for board members to request items go to committee and then go to the agenda, any member can bring a motion to the floor, similar to how you brought the motion to give Pam a credit card about a month ago.
Okay,
She,
Is he
Trustee
through?
Rutherford had the floor next.
pardon me?
Trustee Rutherford had the floor
Oh,
next.
okay.
You asked the question, how did it come about?
Yeah.
Dr. Green emailed me all her information months ago, and I sent it out to everyone. Everyone. I sent it out to everyone. I just forwarded it on. And so with that, I looked at it and I sent it on, and I had asked, when we were asked what do we want to do, I knew I could just make a motion. And that's exactly what I did, because I wanted it to get off the district. And you all, my heart goes to both sides. Please let me echo that to you all. But this district needed to move forward. And my statement to you all, I'd like to speak to the young lady that stated that you all were treated disrespectfully, and I'm gonna honestly disagree with that, okay? And I'm just gonna say we're a board and we need each other. We need your support in moving forward. And I'm just asking that we just move on and stop rehashing the past. Thank you.
Secretary Perkins.
I was reading, and I've been going through my CB classes and all of that, and I was reading under informal meetings, and it said, and this is in our open meeting book, it says in advance, informal meeting of a school board to decide what will be done later at an open meeting is illegal. A board may not meet informally in advance of a public meeting to
Point of
determine.
information. Do you have proof that there's been a meeting that you haven't been invited to?
Well, obviously
No,
something happened.
That's an accusation.
Point of information. I'm reading
I was still at my
directly-
point. I had the floor. I was asking you a question.
If you let me finish.
I asked you a question.
Point of
What's your
order.
point?
Secretary Perkins had, I'm sorry, turn your mic on. 1 second, Secretary Perkins had the floor. You say a point of information, that's a quick inquiry. It should be going back and forth. She should be able to finish her statement.
Thank you.
Then, when she get done, the board is rest to be able to comment on, that nature. But does the board have to comment? No, but the board is able to. So we should allow her to, Secretary Perkins, to finish her statement.
Thank you.
And then the board decides if they want to comment or not. That's my point.
This is on page 11 in the open meetings guide. It says a board may not meet informally in advance of a public meeting to determine what will be decided formally at the public meeting. So in my mind, someone met and talked in order for that to come up, and then it was a decision made. And then I listened to everybody tonight talk about safety. And I got an issue with that. Safety. We have an obligation as a board to protect everybody up here.
Point of
And that-
information. Does the secretary know we said children's safety?
Sorry, what was that?
Anybody's
Safety for the
safety,
students.
according to what everybody said tonight. Anybody's safety. That's what it said.
No,
What
point of
was
information.
said?
Point of information. We were speaking of safety for the scholars.
So you
This
don't
is the
care
first-
about us?
Point of order. We should not allow privileged motions to go back and forth. I would ask the president to let Secretary Perkins finish her statement. Then afterwards, board members will be able to respond or not respond. Just because we probably may disagree or agree with her statement, we should allow her to finish her statement and leave it be and have a response afterwards. That's my point.
And point of order, points of information need to be asked in the form of a question.
I did.
You did.
No.
Yes, I did.
Point of order, and also the role of the president is to facilitate the meeting, not to interject personal opinions.
And I also read in the Roberts Rules where it says a 2/3 vote is necessary whenever you are limiting or taking away the rights of members or whenever you are changing something that has already been decided. And according to what I know, it was already decided that Ms. Green was not going to be paid, so we should have rescinded, before anything was voted on, we should have rescinded that motion by the former board. That didn't happen. And then we passed it to pay $6,000. We never even saw a line item of what we were paying for until I asked the question tonight. If that's how we're gonna do business and you talk about trust, transparency, and all this stuff, I don't see it. If you want it, then it's gotta be fair all the way around the board. I don't see that. And I feel like everybody up here is of value. And if any one of us are hurt in any way, shape, fashion, or form, we should be protected. That's why the police officer is here, because of what happened. Now, none of you were here. I was in the audience. And I saw the previous board unanimously remove that lady from the presidency because they all witnessed the beatdown. So, in good conscience, I felt like, because I heard Trustee Luna say he wouldn't have voted either to help either one of them. But I am an advocate for a victim over an abuser. And I will not, and that's why I voted no, because I was not going to vote in favor of paying for somebody who assaulted somebody. I was not going to do that. And so the precedent was set that we support criminality. That's what I feel like. So you wanted to know, and there you have it.
Vice President King.
The comment I would make is simple. Teray King Jr., that was elected, did not meet informally. I was elected to be a person of integrity. That's my character. I'm not aware of no informal meeting. I speak for myself. I make my own mind up. But I feel, just simple as we had a discussion about policy just 5-10 minutes ago, I had my mind made up. I talked to some individuals in the schools. They was able to change my mind. I'm not a hard yes, hard no. I make my own decision. No illegal meeting happened with me. I was nowhere about nothing that. So I'm disappointed I'm accused, or some members are accused of a legal meeting. I don't meet illegally. I don't do nothing illegal because I'm a person of integrity and that's how I was raised. And that's that. So I'm a one person that voted yes to it. So I didn't meet illegally nowhere. So that's leave 3 people. I don't know what happened, but if I agree with something, I'm gonna vote my conscience and I'm gonna move on. But no one pressured me into nothing. There was no campaign contributions to nothing, but I make my own decision. I was elected to make my own decision by myself. That's it.
Dr. Joyce.
I think what is being said is that once a motion, we passed it not to pay. The board had a right to rescind that motion 30 days after. You could have rescinded 30 days after we had voted to not pay. Rather than making a motion, supposed to have been a motion to reconsider, look at your Robert rules and look at your bylaws. According to the Attorney General and the guidelines of the Open Meeting Act, we violated it because we did not make a motion to reconsider that previous motion. And so that motion was not made to reconsider the previous motion that was passed about 3 or 4 months ago. And I think that's the question is, why did we omit that part, the reconsideration of a motion? And that's a legitimate question because it's in the Attorney General guidelines of the Open Meeting Act. So are you guys saying we don't have to do reconsideration anymore? If something passed, you don't have to do a reconsideration motion? A motion to reconsider the previous motion that was passed. And we just have to put this on the record, that's the question, just for the record, that we did not do that step, and that step was omitted, so we have to put it on the record. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Treasurer Lewin.
I'm just confused. What is she asking for a motion? I'm lost.
No,
So
we
am I.
asked him why it wasn't done at the previous meeting prior to paying the $6,000 check. Why did we not do a motion of reconsideration to the other motion that
Point
we
of order.
already had?
What's your point?
Treasurer Luna had a question to the chair, not a response from no other board member.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just asking what she was asking. I mean,
I,
I'm sitting here confused. I'm not sure what's being asked
would you
of
like
us,
to
so
restate your request or your question?
Oh, do you, if we had passed the motion, we passed the motion, we passed it, this hit about the particular person that wanted to get paid, reimbursed for her legal fees. The previous board passed to not pay that fee. You guys come back about 5 or 6 months and overruled that, but there's a process that you have to do before you can just overrule it, that particular part. And that was a motion to reconsider. It's in the Robert rules.
Mr. President, my response is
That you,
I'm going to focus my remarks on students and scholars and driving them forward and not hashing out all battles that we've already voted on. Thank you.
Treasurer McIntyre. I'm sorry, I did it again. Trustee McIntyre.
So this statement is out there that the motion and the vote was illegal. And I guess the question, whether you want to respond to it or not, was if you were not aware of that, you are now. And so it's on the record. So 4 of you voted for something that was not proper. And furthermore, there was a last-minute legal opinion, I believe it was the 5th one that was solicited for this issue. And my question is, who asked for the 5th legal opinion? Who inquired about that? And why was it not made available to all 7 of the board members, and it was only made available to 5, or to 4? And to speak to Trustee Perkins, I agree. I'm at a loss as to why the assaulter, it would even be an issue, a consideration, why someone who assaulted someone else in a public, open board meeting is getting any legal consideration. My legal fees were not reimbursed. They went through the district. So there was no money that came to me or whatnot. And through the chair to Superintendent Jones and Assistant Superintendent Murphy, I would like to know how you can sit there, having witnessed what you did, and be silent and complicit with the activities that are going on with the board right now. It's a matter of safety. It's a matter of ethics. It's a matter of morality. I mean, how can you even look me in the eye and justify your support of this? I just can't believe it, to be honest. And we already have an atmosphere that's charged with violence and threats and harassment, and to make a decision whether explicitly or tacitly, is, I think, sending a horrible example to the district and to the students. I'm ashamed of this district. I really am. You all saw what happened. It was completely one-sided. You have a particular board member who ran on the platform, "I stand with Danielle," which is hideous. And it's unconscionable. And shame on all of you for sitting here and being complicit with this. It's an embarrassment to our district.
Vice President King.
I make a motion to adjourn. That's not debatable. Roll call, please.
Okay, roll call vote. Treasurer Luna.
Yes.
Trustee Relaford.
Yes.
Vice President King.
Yes.
Secretary Perkins.
No.
Trustee McIntyre.
No.
Trustee McNeil.
Yes.
Myself, President Clack, yes. Okay.
Meeting adjourned.
Meeting adjourned at 9:58. Y'all have a good day.